morning.
Good morning. Today we're talking with Jeff Cobabe, a friend of mine, investor extraordinaire. I have been looking forward to our conversation today for many years because Jeff is, I think, the ideal representative of the person I imagine to be the silent investor. They have a different business and they have just bought and held real estate throughout their career and gathered more real estate and done very well in residential real estate, while that has not been their focus at all. And so, anyway, without further ado, Jeff Cobabe.
Yep. Well, so I guess I should probably, so this is funny, but the first time I met Joel, while I was dating my wife, we went over to a friend's house. It happened to be Joel's brother, Jeff. And we were there. I don't know if we were watching a movie or whatnot, but Joel was there on the couch, and he had these rolls of wire that he was wiring around a pencil. And what he was doing was he was weaving this together and making the suit of armor, which was just like, I looked at that and I went, "That's fascinating." And I thought, he must be a lunatic. I could never spend that much time doing that. It's cool as could be, but I could just never do it, right? And then he pulled out a whole bunch of them. Then he put it on, and it's like, oh, that's really something. So that's what I remember of you. And that was
I have two suits.
That's got to be. I know.
So I have the one that you mentioned, and I had one that I did with lock washers.
Yes, lock washers.
Open the lock washer.
You told me all about it.
Put the next one.
Yep.
Close it up.
You still have them?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
jeez.
You don't spend thousands of hours and get rid of it.
That's true.
Yeah.
Does it still fit?
In fact, my son.
Probably not.
Me, no.
That's
I put it
expandable.
on. I'm like,
Yeah.
You can expand those.
How heavy were they?
I think they were 35, about 40 pounds.
Yeah, 40 pounds.
Oh my
Yeah.
word.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like,
And then if you have the head
Yeah.
piece as well, which is probably another 7, 8.
yeah, it was cool.
Yeah.
Like over the top cool.
Yeah, it's great.
As a guy.
But
I don't think my wife cared so much. It's like, yeah, whatever.
so yeah, after you put it on, you run around for a little bit. Your endorphins are absolutely running wild. It's like
You're ready to go to battle.
You're ready for whatever. It's great.
Uh,
Life is good. So we're talking about real estate. What brought this whole convergence is that years ago we were at a camp out. We were sitting down at a campfire, and you said, "Do you want to learn how to be a millionaire in real estate?" And of course, that piqued my interest immediately because I've been studying real estate for probably 10, 15 years.
was I talking to you?
Yeah.
Like I was.
Yeah,
like
you had asked generally,
you and
but
me. Okay.
I responded.
Okay.
Yeah, we're
So
all
I just
sitting
put it out
around the
there.
campfire.
Just hey, who would like to be a millionaire? I can tell you how to do it.
Yeah, who wants to know how to be a millionaire in real estate?
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, and then what you said, and I'd like you to say it again, but it's basically started with a duplex and worked up from there. So share,
Interesting.
because I think it's one of the most quintessential, simple ways. I was at, I think, David Bach, the 1 Minute Millionaire, whatever. I'm killing his books names, but he talks about begin to become a millionaire in real estate. Go buy a house and then don't sell it. Move into the next house.
Mhm.
Keep
Okay.
moving up in houses and keep them.
So basically, what was your mindset to get started to do what you wanted to do?
I think really it started when. So my dad was a plumber, and at a very young age, I would go to side jobs with him, and because he worked for my grandfather, they had a big plumbing company in LA, and he had invested. He had just taken all the money that he made from these side jobs, and he had bought duplexes, houses, apartment complexes, small ones like 4 units and 5-unit buildings, and so I would go with him to fix those. I'd go with him on these side jobs where he was making the money that he took and invested in these properties. And like I was 7, 8, 9 years old, and he just talked to me. It was almost as if, thinking back on it, it was almost as if I was a sounding board, right? And in a way, he was teaching me, and he was putting that in my head. And so over the course of growing up, I had developed these these ideas that was how I was going to build wealth. Now, unfortunately, my dad just about cut his leg off in a rototiller accident. Rototiller jumped up, took his leg in, and basically he was looking at his heel, um, and and about lost his leg. And he was, I believe, at the time he had gone into business for himself, and he basically used the equity in those properties to live without working for like a year and a half before he was back, and so you know it kind of it took something out of him. He was he was really gung ho at that time, but then after the accident, it was just like it was survival mode, and he never really regained that interest in investing. The other thing that was interesting, and I find this fascinating, was they had changed, if I remember correctly, they had changed the laws so that you couldn't, you could only write off the interest, you couldn't write off the whole payment of the property. And I guess before that, I guess investors were just making a killing. And it was a time that I think that interest rates were like 16, 18%. It was crazy.
And the tax code changed in 1986
Okay.
with the Reaganomics,
Right.
and they took away some of the advantages.
Right. And he basically said, well, you can't make any money at this anymore. Well, they change things change. And so, yeah, I guess if you believe that you can't make money anymore, then you're right. But if you don't know any different, like me, you just go, well, this is the way to do it. Then you can't. So that was kind of an interesting thing. But it was my father, talking to me at a very young age. And so, like, if I could give any advice in regards to that, I would say, talk to your children. If you are in a vehicle with your children, what are you doing? Are you listening to the radio? Are you listening to talk radio or something like that? Your kids are going, oh, I'd like to listen to something else, and they put their earphones in. Or are you having a conversation with them, not just about life, but about goals, about your own endeavors and the things that have gone well in your life that you've done? First of all, you're going to build a great relationship. Second of all, you're going to teach your children. Never more evident than when my son, he was with his soccer team. I want to say he was about 10, and so he was in this van with a bunch of boys, and one of the moms was driving. There was probably about 6 boys in there, and I don't know if it was a Ferrari or something like that, or a Lamborghini, pulled up next to them. The boys are just going nuts. They're just like, I'm going to have one of those and whatnot. And my son, he just goes, why would you buy that? It's a depreciating asset. Like, why wouldn't you take that same money and put it into something that's going to make money for you, like a property or something like that? And this mom, she's just kind of listening to the boys, and she's like, whoa, something's different about that one. So much so that she came and she told me and my wife, she's like, you don't believe what happened, right? Like, your son's a genius, and it's fascinating that that happens. That was not my intent, but it's a result of spending that time with your children and teaching your children. Right. So that was the idea. Now, you got to understand something about me. I'm dyslexic. I graduated from high school functionally illiterate, and I say functionally because I could read street signs and I could make out instructions, stuff like that. But I was so interminably slow because of the dyslexia that I'm sure that like teachers and whatnot, they liked me. They thought I was a nice kid, and they thought I was a good kid, and I tried. But they probably thought, man, there's no way this guy's ever going to be successful in life. Just not going to happen, right? And so, so there was, some drawbacks there. And I only mention that because, like I'm not the smartest one, and I'm not, I had some things that I really had to overcome. Um, but while I was in school, in the bonehead classes, or I guess that's not okay to say. You may have to cut that. I'm kidding. I don't care, right? But with all the rest of the degenerates, that and it was interesting. There were a lot of kids from broken homes and things like that, and so you saw how they really struggled, and then a lot of them ended up getting into drugs and just some bad things. I'm sure, like, I'd be surprised if not over half of them were in prison. But somehow I had direction in my life, and there was an assignment. They said, "Okay, you're gonna write in a journal every day." I hated doing that, but one of the prompts, one of the days, was, "What are your goals in life?" And so I really thought a lot about it, and I said, "Okay, well, now's the time. They're gonna have me do something, so I might as well write it down." So I wanted to own my first rental property when I was 16. It was I wanted to be a millionaire by the time I was 30. It was I wanted to drive a Porsche 911. It was I wanted to marry a girl like Jamie Papworth. And I was like, I don't know, I think I was 12 and Jamie was 11, right? And she just had these neat qualities that I really thought were something special, right? And it wasn't, I was smart enough to know I'm not going to marry her, right? I mean, there's a long time before I get married, but I wanted to marry somebody that had some really unique qualities like that. And then like I wanted to go on a mission for my church. I wanted to I wanted to buy my first house by the time I was 21, and I wanted a skate park in my backyard. And I was a 12-year-old boy.
Did you ever get the skate park?
And what's that?
Did you ever get the skate park?
Well, I mean, I have a nice pool and I could drain it. So
Close enough.
The point is like sometimes your goals change, right? And but as far as the goals go, and I think, another one was I wanted to own my own business by the time I was 25. It's funny how when you write things down and then you start to break down those individual goals, things come to fruition. My wife is pretty neat. You would have to agree, right? I mean, like you thought she was neat before you were married, right? And you're like she's just friend. You're going, oh yeah, she's really a neat girl, right? I think you told me that. And she is special. And as far as like a Porsche 911, at a certain point you go, well, they're not really practical. They're this, they're that, But on the flip side, kind of this goal that's out there. I don't drive a Porsche 911. Instead, I own a used car dealership that I have that we deal in. That's called the High Line. Mm-hmm. So high-end cars, so low miles, high-end cars, and yeah, we've had Porsches and we've had Maseratis and we've had and we have a lot of American cars too and whatnot. But we kind of cater to the higher. What's that?
Have you ever gone test driving on your lot?
Test drive any of your cars on the.
Oh yeah,
go out and drive them.
Oh, I drive them all the time.
Yeah.
Which one's your favorite? Complete size.
This is funny, but so American cars are kind of too cushy, mm-hmm. right? You sit in them, and it's like, oh yeah, they're comfortable, but they just don't handle the same way and whatnot, right? And like European cars, so like your BMWs and Porsches and all of those, they're really stiff. Like the seats are stiff, and mm-hmm. you fit in there, and it will hold you really well as far as the handling. But and they're terrible cars. I would never recommend it, right? But my favorite car to drive, and I never knew this before. I know there's some people, they love them, and they just like, oh yeah, this one's in the shop and it's going to be there for months. I need to buy another one. And you're going, wait a minute, where is your reasoning here? That's ridiculous. It's a Jaguar. A Jaguar is like, it just feels good, and it's got that softness and yet that sportiness to it, and like the the engines they put in them are just massive. And so yeah, I mean, like you ask my favorite, I've driven a lot of them, and yeah, it's like a Maserati. You're just going, it's okay, and Corvettes, they're way too low to get into. We sell a lot of those. Um, they seem to
Okay,
move
you
really
mean low
well.
to the ground?
Yeah, it's like a pain to get in, and then you're so low to the ground. It's like I think your butt's 3 inches off the ground. It's like, what is this all about? But a Jaguar, you get into it and it just fits you like a glove, and it just feels good, and you don't realize how fast you're going, and they handle really well, and it's they're they have some real flaws,
I
but
was just going to say they have a lot of electrical issues.
they
They used to.
they used to. Yes, that's right. That's what I always remember.
Yeah,
and so it's like never
that's
buy
it.
one of those. Yeah,
Yeah.
see, we're both old. You just don't look as old, I guess. I don't know, but actually, I think you're older than me.
I am.
Yeah, a little bit. But yeah, so that's funny. But yeah, a Jaguar is like if I didn't care about the money, I didn't care about fixing it, I would buy two Jaguars because you'd have to have one while the other one's in the shop. That's how it works.
Got it. So, how did your goal go of owning a business by 25?
Actually, this is funny, but I went into business with a cousin at 24. He just was like, "Hey, I want to build a business, and how would you like to do this?" And whatnot. And I did that. But he was, I like him, but he's challenging. He would set people up to fail, and this is what I mean, right? You get there in the morning, and I'm a plumber. Okay, that's what I did before I owned businesses, and even when I owned businesses. And you get there in the morning, he goes, "Okay, everything's in the truck, go." And so you get in a truck, and you're like, "Where are we going? What are we doing?" You ask him questions because you want to be prepared. And he goes, "Just go, go, go." It's like, and he just was just a jerk about it. Finally, he just goes, "All right, fine, whatever." So you get in the truck and you drive down to Tracy. And you get there and you go, "Okay, jerk, I'm here. What are we supposed to do?" "Well, you're going to get the pipe machine out. You're going to throw all this pipe and all the gas pipe and stuff like that." And you're like, "Okay, where's the pipe machine? Idiot." He goes, "What do you mean, where's the pipe machine? It's on the truck." I go, No, it's not. Remember, if you had told us, what we were doing, we could have made sure we were prepared. Why is it not on the truck? This, right? And it was like, why would you do that? You not realize we had to take the pipe machine off the truck to get that 600-pound Trazel sink in the back of it that we installed yesterday. It just so he would set you up to fail, and he set himself up to fail. And so I learned a lot about that, a lot about business by that kind of experience. Is we're here not to, we want everybody to succeed. And so the more information you can give them, the better they are prepared. And so it's just kind of the way I've lived my life. So, yeah, by 25, I had broken ties with him. Actually, I've forgiven him, but I just would recommend nobody ever do this. But when you tell somebody, "Hey, this isn't really working, I'm going to go somewhere else," and your wife is, 8 months pregnant, you would think that person wouldn't go, "All right, fine, leave." It was like, I'm giving you fair warning that I'm going to be doing something else in a couple months, and yet now all of a sudden I'm like, that was not cool.
Unemployed.
Yeah. And so yeah, out of desperation and out of being tired of being laid off, because in the trades, it's there's a lot of feast and famine. And so,
not a lot of winter work.
Well, you get rained out, and then you try and work in the rain, and sometimes it's just a muddy mess, and you don't get anything accomplished, and it's just not worth it. And so I don't blame anybody for that. I totally understand from a business standpoint that some things just aren't worth it. And so yeah, I went into business and started a business at 25, and then the crazy thing is, so I had owned I think around 3 rental properties by this time. Um, yeah, 3. And so at 30, I basically bought the local Mr. Ritter for an awful lot of money, millions. And in doing that, uh, I rolled my business into it, and the equity that I had on my properties, yeah, it's all paper, and and it could go away like that, just the economy and stuff. But yeah, that's at the point where I had $1 million in equity between the properties and my business right at 30, and it was right at 30, which is funny. I mean, it was um, kind of surprising that all kind of fell into line. Um, Also about goals, this is funny. So I had those goals, and I became a very goal oriented person, and so I kept a Franklin planner, and that was very goal oriented. You remember that? You probably
we all
have
had
it too,
Franklin,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of missed that on the paper, and I've tried to get back into it, but I just can't. I can't figure out how to do the same thing on my phone, and I think I've actually become less productive because of that. I should probably just break down and go, okay, I'm just going to go back to a Franklin planner.
Can you even get them still?
You can. They still sell them,
Okay.
but they're not as they don't have a separate day for each one. It's a calendar that like you move it forward, and you can they have apps and stuff, but it's just not the same. There's
Right.
something unique about and tangible
Writing it.
about paper and
Yes.
writing it down. There really is. So so anyway, about the goals, right? I'm in church one day, and I hate to admit this, but every once in a while, my mind may wander because the speaker isn't captivating me and whatnot. So I may have taken some of that time, and I may have been flipping through my goals. And my wife is sitting next to me, and our 3 kids are over playing and just kind of being quiet. And and she looks over what I'm doing, and what I'm doing is I'm changing the dates on some of my goals. I'm like scratching out a date and putting in a new date. And she kind of leans over to me, and she doesn't even remember this, but it is like indelibly imprinted in my mind. She leans over and she says, I don't know why you're always doing that. You never accomplish those goals. And I'm in the middle of church, right? And I'm a goal-oriented person. I mean, I'm just like I'm focused on my goals, and I'm a little disheartened because I am changing the date for the 3rd time. And I believe it was I was buying my grandfather out of a property that we had owned together for a long time, and I'll get to that in a second. Um, but like I'm thinking about this, and I'm like seething inside. I'm like, those are fighting words, right? And I kind of thought about it for a little bit, and so with gritted teeth, I leaned over to her and I said, no, I always accomplish my goals. Sometimes the timing just takes a little bit longer, and that's been true. It's if I put my mind to it, and I break down that goal into the little goals, like I've always been able to do it, and and it happens faster the more I do it, the farther I go along. Um, and so yeah, that's kind of funny. My goals. Oh, so now I did not buy my first rental property when I was 16, but I did buy my first rental property when I was 18. So I'm driving with my dad. We're working together. I think I was working for him at the time, and we're going through his neighborhoods, and it was actually I believe it was 89. Yeah. So and that was kind of the peak, and like it was just
Right.
booming,
Yeah.
and it was there was this sense of urgency, like, man, I better do it because everything's going up, right? And so I had money saved up because I lived at home, and I also budgeted. Like I go, okay, well, I spend money on, I live at home, right? So I would budget a certain amount for the weekend to go on dates and things like that, and I overspent all the time. I think I overspent probably every date I ever went on, right? Whatever I budgeted. But the fact that I budgeted meant that I kept a lot in the bank, and so I think at the time I had like, I don't know, $7,000, $10,000, and at the time that was a decent amount of money.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah. And so, but I knew that I was going to serve a mission for my church. And so how do you do that while you're away? So you need to have an ally or, a partner, right? And so I found a property. It was a duplex in Roseville. It's just a little 1 bedroom on one side, 3 bedroom, 1 bath on the other side. The bedrooms are tiny, and it was cinder block building. Used to be owned by a church, I guess, and I think it was a garage that they had converted, right? And so it was. So I came up with the plan, came up with the idea, took the proposal to my grandfather. I go, hey, I think we can make some money at this. This is what I want to do. And I go, I'd like you to be partners with me. He took one look at it and goes, that's a good plan. All right, let's do it. And so he managed it poorly, I might add, because we did lose money during that time. This wasn't, it wasn't very much money to him. So when I came back, I actually owed him some money. So I took over the management.
When you came back from your two-year mission?
Yeah. When I came back from my 2-year mission. I took over the management of it and just made sure that it was always rented. I just, if they weren't paying, they were out, and if they and then get people in there that paid, and slowly increase the rents, and I just didn't let things slide. And I'm not. I mean, I get it. I mean, I let things slide all the time, and it's like, well, okay, it's only a couple $1,000, and that's no big deal. I'll worry about these other things because I got bigger things that I'm working on. Yeah, and so that's not a good way to do it. But when you're desperate, you got to be willing just to knuckle down and just make it happen. If there's a repair that needs to be done, you just do it yourself. And that was kind of always my mentality. So anyway, so I did buy that when I was 18. Yep. Kind of funny, when I met my wife, I had met her at a dance, and we went out to my vehicle, and I was going to get her number, and on I could only find like one piece of paper, and on the paper it had a woman's first and last name. And I go, I'm really sorry, this is the only paper I've got. If you could give me your number. And that's what's on there, right? And I said, this is actually a realtor. I'm buying a duplex in Roseville, and this is my realtor that I'm buying it with. And I don't know what she thought, but for whatever reason, she wrote down the right number. Exactly. It was like, and so that was kind of funny. But
this is my realtor.
Yeah, but but it's all true, and so. So anyways, that was funny.
So do you still own that duplex?
I do actually. And
that's the one you bought at 18.
That's the one I bought at 18.
Right.
And I'm 53, 54, 53.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean, it's been paid off and pulled out money and did other things with it. Actually bought out my investors at the Mr. business with it. And so there was a loan
So
there,
you
but
used
it's not very
the
much.
equity from that property to
Propel you
feed
forward.
Mr. Reuter.
Not to feed it, but to
to buy them out, buy their equity out of it.
Reposition. Yeah.
So which it was needed. I've had some issues with some investors and some embezzling and things like that. That it was like I needed to be the one in control. And so it, those type of things, they facilitate me to be able to do that. The other thing that's important is when you learn the process of buying a property, when you're buying a business or starting a business, those same processes are very similar. And it gives you the knowledge and maybe the confidence too, to be able to do some other things. And I totally attribute the education of being able to buy a business to being able to put together a deal, get investors and whatnot, to how I was able to buy businesses, also able to start businesses and things like that. So
you attribute it to real estate?
I do. I don't know. You look back on it and you go, well, what would I do differently? And I think that I would have put less into business, um, and probably put more into real estate because it's an asset that just continues to grow.
So I want to explore that a little bit, but I think before, tell us like when you bought your second property and your third property. And
Okay, so
like what was your progression in real estate so that you have an idea of here's your business, here's real estate.
Yeah.
How would
So
you do
when
more?
when I was 21, maybe 22, so got married, lived in the duplex, so we had a place to live.
You lived in your 18-year-old purchased duplex.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And
The 3-bedroom side or the 1-bedroom side?
The 1-bedroom side. There's just two of us. Yeah. Two of us, and and they kind of fixed it up too while we were there. Remember, for a long time we didn't have a bathroom sink. So it was like,
kitchen sink works.
Yeah, kitchen sink works. Yep. And so it was just and if you're doing things cheap on the cheap and shoestring, you just make do and you just figure it out.
Yeah.
And so then we finally had I had like a custom cabinet made and then a sink in it, things like that. But and it's still there. And that's another thing is like if you're going to do something, don't do it more than once. Do quality, especially if you're going to hold it. It's that's one thing that I've found is over time, the more you can make it neat and clean. So you got clean lines and so much so like every time I go to rent it, part of painting it would be I'd go in and just caulk everything, and and what's funny about that is people would move in and they'd go buy like stuff at the what do you call it the farmer's market, and they bring roaches into my place.
Yeah.
Right. And then they complain about the roaches. Like, hey, we had it exterminated. There was nothing here, and those roaches came from somewhere. And then you'd see the boxes that they used to move in or whatever, and you're like, hey, that's where they came from. Nobody ever believes you, but if you can caulk everything, there's no places for the roaches to hide, And so, like over, I don't know, I guess 18 to 54. What is that? Like over 36 years, 37 years, whatever it is. Like I have caulked everything. There is no cracks in that building anywhere, right? And there are like
you just caulk all the holes.
There are 34 coats of paint. Yeah, if somebody scratches through it, you go, oh, yeah, I remember that year, and I remember that. Yeah, it's there's some funny things like that, and it's and then you do things to make it nice. So you want neat and clean. You can't fix up everything. But what's funny about that is you're going to look at something, you're going to go, oh man, I need to take care of that. And they won't even see it. But then they'll go, hey, are you going to replace that? And you're like, but yeah, sure. And so you don't have to fix everything. But what you tell them, the tenants, is go through it. If there's anything you see, we want to fix up. We want it to be nice. We want it to be neat and clean. We want it to stay that way, right? Because then they realize that it matters to you, and then you fix whatever it is that they're asking for. I would always, it's funny, I would always go buy a bag of bark and whatever flowers were blooming, right? And I put fresh flowers and the bark down. And people, rather than come in and go, oh, it's a little dumpy place, they would say, wow, this is really nice. Now they'd move in and like 2 weeks later, they didn't water the flowers and they're all dead, And so it's like, they're like, oh, I go, if you water those, they'll live. That's all you have to do. Just a little bit of water. Just take a cup of water and throw it on, right? But they don't. So you try and do something that's neat and magical. I think that's important. Is any property that you own, do something that is unique, special, and magical, right? Something that takes it over the top, and whether it's a fountain out front, or rather it's certain flowers, or rather it's I don't know, what else have I done? I got away from flowers and other succulents in front of it, in this brick planter that's there, and people come by and they just go, "That looks really sharp," because it's in style and it looks good, they'll ignore maybe the fact that it's 50 years old and there's who knows, right? And so
there's tweakers next door.
yeah, they're neighbors. No, I've had that too. I mean, I've had some really interesting experiences with that. So
Let's go back to what was your second property? So you bought
second property was a house. Okay. So I bought a house.
So you lived in your one bedroom.
Yep.
Of your duplex.
Yep.
And then you bought a house.
Yep. Bought a 3-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage. Your basic starter home in Rockland. It was. So I think I bought the duplex for, I think it was $79,000.
Okay.
So, which with my 7 and his 7, we were able to put, I think we put 10% down, had reserves and closing costs and everything else. And so it all worked out really good. And actually writing the goals down at church and having a little discussion with my wife, that's what I was changing. It was the date to buy him out. He was kind of losing a little bit in the head, and he had remarried, and she was, I love her, but she was a little funny about money, and I didn't want to have to deal with her. I wanted to deal with my grandfather. And so it was, I needed to buy him out. So, and I did, and that worked out really good. And it worked out good for them too. They made money, $20,000 or $30,000. And so within, I don't know, probably about 7 years, maybe 10 years, something like that, then the amount that he put in tripled. So that was good for him.
Yeah.
And tripled in a time where
the market was going down.
Where the market was going down. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Because we bought it at the peak.
Yeah.
And it was the peak. And we're going to talk about that too. But so second house was the house in Rockland. If I had to do all over again, I wouldn't buy a house before I bought 3 duplexes. That's what I would do.
You're saying you buy duplex,
yes. Yep.
And then buy a house after that?
That is correct. That little house of the.
Why?
Well, okay, so it, like they call it the Burr method or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Which you buy, renovate, and then pull the money out, right?
Yeah.
Refinance. That doesn't always work for people because then you're cash poor, you're over leveraged, and so you got to be careful of that. I think instead, what I did was I bought it, I made money, I saved money, and then I bought the next one. And so I didn't refinance it, which meant I wasn't paying closing costs. I wasn't paying to refinance it. Banks, they love to refinance things. They just do because then they restart again, right?
Yeah, they get all
it's
the
a
fees.
fully amortized loan, which makes it sound really neat. Like, oh, it's a fully amortized loan. It's so much benefit to you. No, it's only beneficial to the bank, right? Because you pay all the interest up front, right?
It's front loaded.
Yeah, it is. And which is, I mean, whoever came up with that, they were a genius, but I think they might be criminal too. So,
an evil genius.
Yeah, an evil.
Oh, it works super well for the banks, and the banks want to do it, and it allows.
It does.
It allows for the banks to charge lower interest rate because they're getting it front loaded.
That is true.
And so it's especially somebody who holds it,
if
full term.
If they,
it allows for the prosperity of our country.
That is correct. But I'm always trying to game it.
Yeah,
it's
like they are.
Yeah, right. It's like, okay, so how do I do this, right? And so, yeah, if you can.
So you do 3 duplexes.
I would. I preach that all the time. I go, look, if you buy 3 duplexes before you buy that little house with the picket fence, you'd be a millionaire. If you did it, if you did it 30 years ago, you'd have 1.5 million in equity, and the rent's coming in, and what would it be?
More than that.
$10,000 a month coming in.
You'd be a multi-millionaire just for those 3 properties.
No, No, those three, it ends up being 1.5.
Mhm.
Is it what, 500,000?
Yeah,
Yeah.
each one is worth about 500,000.
Okay.
Now those numbers work, right? And if you did it today, okay, then you'd have $4 million in equity in 30 years,
Right.
and you wouldn't have just $8,000 a month. You have $18,000 a month.
Yeah.
And you would have opportunities to do other things along the way, right? But if you only did that, you just had those three properties and you just held them and just managed them and did nothing else. And so that's why I preach that, because it's easy to do, right?
Yeah.
If a asthmatic, dyslexic, colorblind, kid that barely graduated high school can do that, then anybody can do it. It just takes a little bit of perseverance. Now, I really don't understand why more people don't. I really don't, because it's an easy formula. And so that's what I would recommend. Now, that's not what I did. So the next property that I got into, my father-in-law owned a 14-unit apartment complex, and he was at a point where he was just done with it, and he was ready to get back to the bank. And so I said, "Well, hold on a second. I'm willing to put sweat equity into it. I'm willing to do this. I'm willing to do that." And so I proposed this to him, and he's like, "We won't do that." What? Why not? Right? And so then, and this was kind of funny. He says, he comes back to me a little bit later, and he says, "All right, I'll do it, but only if you partner with his other daughter and son-in-law." Right? Mm. And then when they wrote it up, they didn't. And there was a divorce in the family, so they were kind of like a little bit weird about it, and so we didn't get it. Our wives got it, right? And so
the in-laws didn't get it, but the family members did.
Yes, that was the intent. It was like no, it goes down. Which I have no plans on ever getting divorced. You want to kill wealth? That's the way to do it. Get divorced, but and I think therefore, make sure you're marrying the right person for the right reasons. It makes all the difference. So anyway, so we got into that. It's 14 apartment complex over off of Howe and Edison.
So that was your third property?
That was third property, yeah.
Okay.
And how many units? 4?
14.
14, okay.
14. And so we both moved in there to make it happen, right? That was because we took over the loan, and things had changed a little bit, and so I think it was a little bit upside down on it, and so yeah, we just managed it, and we did really well with it. And
you had mentioned something about the no teeth rule when managing.
Yeah,
that's where that came from, right? Was that 14 plex?
I developed that before that, so yeah. You can
share the no teeth rule.
I will. Okay, so you make a judgment call, right, when you're renting to somebody, and you have to, right, because you get the right vibe most of the time, and so
I should probably put that in the caveat that the laws are different now, so you screen differently now than decades ago.
It was probably questionable then, but you have to start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And you have to, you're going to spend way too much time if you just go, okay, we're going to run your credit and all this other stuff for everybody that comes in. And so yeah, I had a rule. It was, if you don't have teeth, you're not renting from me, right? Because there's a couple of reasons why people don't have teeth, right? Number one is they're drug addicts, and it just rots their teeth out of their head. Number two, they like to mix it up and they like to fight or whatever, and they got their teeth knocked out. Most people, if they got their teeth knocked out in a car accident or something else, they care about their appearance enough, which means they're going to care about where they live, which means they're going to care about how they keep things and all things like that. Yeah, there's a lot of people who don't have teeth, but they get them replaced or they get dentures or, they don't walk around without teeth. So that was kind of, and I use that kind of as a tongue in cheek, but there's some other things too, some other warning signs that you just go, yeah, I'm not running that guy. But you can't just turn somebody away. So what we would do is I would say at this 14 apartment complex, I just had a notepad and I go, we have a waiting list. And I just started it, right? And people put down your name, your number, and when it is that you're looking to move in, right? And so they would. And I had this deal where I go, this is a nice place and we don't just rent to anybody. So we have a waiting list. And what's funny is I said that same thing to everybody. And then people would come to me and they would parrot that back to me. They would say the exact words. They would say, I heard this is a really nice place and that you have a waiting list. I'd like to get on your waiting list. And so in a way, I kind of created our own reality in that it elevated the place by simply putting that out there. Mm-hmm. And so, I learned that if you say a thing and then you work to create it, it helps to perpetuate creating your own reality. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I would do. And then if somebody did have teeth and they were well put together, I would say, make sure you push your name on the waiting list. But these people on the waiting list, I don't have applications from them. So if you can fill this out right now, it will put you ahead of the people on the waiting list, right? Here's the urgency, right? The waiting list. And now all of a sudden, I'm gaming the system. I'm giving them an opportunity to game the system because they think that I like them. And so they will fill it out right there. And then I can run it and I can get them in soon, right? Because they are the people that I want. And so that's what I did. We elevated the area. The other thing that was fascinating that I did there is that area was rife with drug dealing and prostitution. And so we had some interesting experiences. We had a back parking lot that people could drive in, and unfortunately, they take the Johns back there, and they would do their thing, and they would throw condoms out the window on the ground, which is just absolutely, utterly disgusting, right? And so get tired of cleaning that stuff up. So we would walk out there. If somebody was back out there, we'd walk out there and we start taking pictures of the vehicle, right? And they'd just be pissed. Like, I'm surprised when he ran over me and my brother-in-law. And so, and the hooker would she's just like down on the floor, like, you're not taking a picture of me. And he's like, caught in the headlights. And so we did that, which chased them off. We also, anytime there was a problem.
Did that take a while? I mean, that person probably never comes back. Did it take a while before? So
the other thing that we did, and this was kind of funny.
The industry realized that it wasn't.
Don't come around there. No. The other thing we did that was really fascinating was we had their license plate. And so with their license plate, we knew somebody that they did repos. And we said, how do you look these people up? And he goes, I can do that. So he does, right? But we didn't want to destroy a marriage or anything like that. But we wanted them to think, hey, we know what's going on here. And so we fashioned a letter so that if you were the John, you would read the letter and you go, oh crap, they know where I'm at. They know who I am, right? And if you were not, then it was like, as a public service in this area, we want to, and so it was, and we would send it to their house.
Okay. Oh, jeez. That's awesome.
It was really something. The other thing that we did was I made a commitment, and this was back when, cell phones, we had flip phones, right? I mean, that was it, right? And so I made a commitment that every time I saw a prostitute, every time I saw them dealing, anytime I saw anything that was off.
Are you talking about on the premises itself?
No, I'm talking about in the area.
In the neighborhood.
Yeah. Every time I drove to or from, because I lived there, I would call the police. And if you call 911 on a cell phone, it was funny because laws have changed, right? You can't do that. You got to be hands-free. But then it was like, yeah, okay. But it always patched you through to the highway patrol. And I would say to the highway patrol, I'd say this is a non-emergency call, but I needed to patch me through to the police department or the sheriff's department, depending upon which side of the street it was on. That's another problem. I'll get that in a second. So
as to whether it was county or city?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because it's like one side is county, one side city. And
they don't like crossing over.
No, and we had an interesting experience with that, and I'll get to that in a second. But so I did that, and I did that like every, at least 2 times a day, if not 4, right? And I would call it in. And the the dispatchers. Oh, so the high patrol is that you need to hang up and call this number. And I go, I'm driving. Can you just patch me through? And they go, okay, and they would. So then I get an operator, and I would tell them what was going on, and it was always, how do you know they're this? How do you know they're that? And I might have embellished a little bit, I watch them every day. I live in the area. And the other thing I said is I have to remain anonymous. Well, you can't remain anonymous. They know your phone, and but if you say that, they're not going to put it out there to anybody else. It's just, and so what's interesting about like prostitution problems and drug problems, stuff like that, is it's a cancer, and it spreads and it metastasizes, right? But what you find is that if you poke somebody in the chest long enough and enough times, they finally go, I don't like that, and they move, like stop poking me, right? And so we just cleaned up the area. I mean, it just magically all got cleaned up. And people would say that. They go, man, this area is a lot cleaner and nicer and whatnot. And they had no idea, right? And I don't know if anybody else was doing anything. I know that, like, we watched people deal drugs across the street, and my brother-in-law, one time he jumped over the front fence to flag down a highway patrolman. And highway patrolmen, they kind of like that kind of stuff. They usually get into that kind of stuff. But he goes, well, let me see what I can do. Right? And I'm thinking, dude, you're running after a highway patrolman. He comes to a stop and he talks to him. And so then so the high patrolman goes around the corner where he's watching her dealing drugs, right? Next thing you know, just they all come, they flock there, and they arrest her.
For backup.
Right? Yeah, just like calls for backup. And it was the highway patrol that did it. Like, I'm thinking, I didn't know they could do that, right? Well, they like that because it's different than what they normally do.
You're
right?
stopping cars.
Yeah, well,
speeding tickets.
yeah, they're yeah. I mean, they are the state police, and they do a good job. So there's another experience, right? My brother-in-law got his tag stolen off of his vehicle, right? And so he's like, it's got to be around here somewhere. So he goes to get his registration. He finds the tag there, and it's on a vehicle that's there. Somebody that's visiting somebody that lives there. And so he calls the police and goes, it's right there. I'm looking at it. He stole it. How do you know he stole it? I'm looking at the number. It was stolen. And so then they're like, well, we can't do anything on private property. He goes, oh, well, they're leaving right now. And they said, well, let's see if we have a car in the area, right? So sure enough, car comes up, they pull up, and they arrest them. They impound it because he has warrants. I mean, if you're going to do something dumb, like you probably did something else dumb too.
Sure.
Right. And so they arrest him right there. We had all sorts of experiences like that. And the problem with it being on one side or the other, they would go, oh, well, we can't do anything. And it was always, which side of the road are they on? Which side of the road are they on?
Yeah, because right there
and so I got tired of that, and I just called the governor's office. And I said, hey, there's a real problem here. Because I don't know, I'm like, skip everybody else. And so I called the governor's office, and they go, okay, well, let me get you to whoever's area that is, what do you call it, is it state senator? I don't know. And so it was their territory, and then they sent me over to somebody that was like an aide or somebody that was specifically in charge of that geographic area.
Right.
And so then next thing I know, I'm getting calls from the elected sheriff. I'm getting calls from the police chief, right? And they're both assuring me, they're saying, no, they have overlapping jurisdiction. They can arrest people on this other side. And I go, look, you have to tell your people that. And so they started doing that. And we started getting visits from like the local officers that, like, they call them pop officers or something like that, right? Yeah. And so they'd come and they'd meet with us and whatnot. And so we had numbers. So like anytime there was a drug problem, we'd call it into 911, but I'd also call and leave a message for the vice squad or the narcotics squad, And so I had them, quote unquote, on speed dial. I mean, I had a car and I had all their numbers, I had their names and stuff like that. And so the area just cleaned up because of, a little bit of effort. Yeah. And it increased the prices, and it did, some things like that. And it made it nicer for everybody. We also,
and you still own that place?
No. No, that was interesting too. I was starting my businesses when I was like 25, and my partner came to me and goes, hey, seems like I'm doing all the work here. Either you need to buy me out, or I need to buy you out, or I'm going to sell it. I go, well, I would love to buy you out, but I've got a lot going on and I can't do that right now. So he ended up buying me out, and I took that money and actually, the house that I'm in right now, that was the down payment for that house. So, which I shouldn't have done that. I should have lived where I was at. I should have bought like 3 rental properties. Anyways, right? Hindsight. The other,
So you sold the 14-plex.
yeah, sold it off to my partner, and
He was bought out.
yeah, I was bought out by a partner.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was thinking that was
yeah.
a business and not the 14-plex.
No, and there was, he ended up not doing very good with it. It was, he, we both moved out of there, and we had hired managers, and some of them did okay. He ended up with a manager that was stealing from him. The other thing is, when he bought it out, he refinanced it, and then he also did some things that I wouldn't let happen at the time. One of them really needed to be done. We needed a new roof on one of the buildings there, but we just didn't have the money, and so it was like I patched the roof. I don't know how many times, but I just did it because we just didn't have the money to do it, and it needed to be done. And he wanted new windows and new doors because doors were older and whatnot, and so he financed that, which brought the cost of everything up. And I always looked at it and went, new windows, really? Why? I mean, you can see out these windows and they work, and dual pane windows. And so I would not have done that.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is, I would have, and this is my mentality, and he was working 2 jobs at a time. I don't blame him for this. I wish that I wish I had known and I could have done something, but for him. But he, the people were stealing from him. They were going to the tenants and going, oh yeah, it has to be cash, it has to be this, and so they were pocketing it. And so he figured it out when it's like, no, we have this many places full. Where's the money? And then he had to evict them. He had to fire them. He had to, but then they were still going and getting money from the tenants. Yeah, even after because the eviction process, you still have to evict them.
Mm-hmm.
So they still live there, and so people still think they're the manager. I would have sat at the door every day. I would have knocked on everybody's door, and I would have said, these people are thieves and criminals. They're being prosecuted. If you give them any money, I'm evicting you that very day. That's it. You're getting an eviction notice. And I'd say, I am the only person that will accept money, that should accept money. And I would have just made it happen.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm kind of dogmatic like that, and I'll work and just make it happen. And he's still had to work 2 jobs, and it was not easy. And so it was hard to watch that happen to him, because I cared and I wanted to see him succeed. He does fine now, but it was a momentary setback and an education. So there was that, and then bought another house, moved into it. The house became a rental. So I really don't know how to sell anything. I just know how to buy them. Sorry, realtors.
Yeah, no, it's
But we like to sell people houses too.
well, the philosophy in real estate is always buy, never sell.
Yeah.
I have a little different twist on it.
There's a time and place.
You always buy, you never cash out.
Yes.
So you could sell, but you're selling for an advantage and or to move to a different strategy.
Right.
Sell this one, buy 2 or 3 over here, just moving the money around, buy a business, do something.
Yeah.
So it's the cashing out that's the problem, because then you've just stopped.
Yeah.
Everything is stopped.
Yeah. I actually, one of my heroes and mentors is one of your uncles, and I've known him for a very long time as well. And I actually worked on some houses that he built with another one of your uncles, Lynn.
Oh, really?
In Folsom. He's the one that bankrolled it, Terry, and he has taken all of his residential properties and rolled them into commercial properties.
Yeah, you did that
Um,
long ago.
a long time ago. Yeah, and that's my plan. And that duplex that'll be the first one to go. Hope the tenants don't see this, but nevertheless, the so and I only say that because in the past it's been kind of a headache, and right now things are really really good, and they just
So yeah, go back to what you were talking about as you would spend less time on your business and more time in real estate business, looking back over the last 30 years.
Well, okay, so you think about this. I mean, you do have to deal with tenants, and if you have a manager, you got to manage that manager.
Yeah.
I'll tell you about that real quick. So, okay, I'm making enough money. I'm going to hire a manager. Then I'll just be hands off and whatnot. Problem is the manager, they didn't manage things very well. Like that duplex in Roseville, like I'd put ads out and I'd have it rented out in 5-10 days every single time. I put an ad in the paper. I don't know if anybody knows what those are anymore.
Yeah.
But
there was a time.
yeah, and so it had sat vacant for like 2 months, and I call her up and I'm like, "What's going on here?" She was she basically had a small management company and she was pregnant, and I get it, but then she lied to me. She says, "Oh, we've been running an ad. I don't know." Well, the paper is like, I don't know, 3 blocks away from the duplex. So I just go over there, went to the paper, and I go, "Hey, I'd like to see the ads you ran on this." "Well, we don't show anything for that." "Oh, you have anything for this company?" "Yeah, we have this one ad for this company." They weren't supposed to show me that, but they did, right? And I guess I'm kind of convincing sometimes. And so I called her on the carpet. I go, "Look, you lied to me. You said you were running an ad specifically for this property. You were not. You're only running an ad for one property. How many properties do you have for rent? What are you doing? You're going to rent that one and just slough everything off to these other people, and we're just, secondhand to you." And because she was pregnant, she had her dad helping her out with it. And I get a call from me, and he says, "You're not the client that we want, and so we're going to stop." And so I basically got fired. Which was good.
Yeah.
And I just went, you know what? It just doesn't require that much. It's, I mean, to manage it and take care of, I think most things I just took care of myself. It was like maybe 1 day a month, if that, so an 8-hour day a month, and that was, many months of not having anything, and then maybe spending a day there, or, having to advertise for tenants, or, or have to deal with kicking somebody out or something like that.
So what about today, with the environment that we're in today?
Mm-hmm.
Do you still self-manage?
I do. I got to
Because
run.
there's so many rules and regulations that are constantly changing.
Yeah.
And we hear about landlords and owners being sued and doing things incorrectly. So you have to stay on top of what the rent control program is all about.
It's really not that much. And with ChatGPT, you just ask the question, and it'll tell you the answer. You got to be careful though, because it'll lead you down a path that So you need to know how to ask the right questions, I guess. And then the other thing is, I have an eviction attorney that I work with. Kind of a funny guy. It's Hogan is his last name.
Yeah, I know Tom.
Yeah,
Tom Hogan.
He's a good guy. He's funny. He's very mild mannered, and kind of handles things a little bit loose in the office. Like, takes a little while to get things going and stuff like that. And part of it's just his caseload and stuff like that. But and I always thought, man, he's just too mild mannered. I want a shark, right? Well, I didn't realize this until one actually went to court, right? And he represented me, but his mild manneredness and the way he questions things, and the way he does things, we got everything we wanted. Like, exactly, right? And it was, this lady thought she was slick, and she thought she was gonna, push things off, and she thought all this other stuff. And she was, by his line of questioning, she was ready to walk out. And he goes, "You can't do that. You need to sign this." And so she signed over everything, and she was out in 15 days. And like, I'm going, man, did I underestimate you? Just because he's so nice and he's pleasant. He's really a nice guy. I've gone to other, and they're like, it's like I'm fighting the case against them, and it's just a jerk, and it's like, why am I going through this? Like, this is worse than the eviction process, and yet with Tom Hogan, it's not. He's great. I just was so impressed with him. That's all I can say. And so, and I guess I would say, because he is so nice, I underestimated him, but no, he's that quiet shark. It was awesome. Because she was just foul. So anyways, and yeah, I've managed it myself, except that I guess I could say, the ones that I own with my daughter and son-in-law, and I'll get to that in a minute, but,
Yeah, so
he manages
I
that.
want to go back to why would you put more time and energy and effort into real estate than you did? And like how would you do that? Like, what would be your objective?
It's so much easier to build wealth, with real estate, and don't get me wrong, it takes a long time, but your career, your job, you put everything you can back into it, and it doesn't mean that it's going to be worth anymore. Markets change, the way that advertising changes. We used to have, called them double truck ads. It was like 2 pages in the phone book, and we're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, to be in all the yellow pages, and to try and portray that we were your neighbor and in your back door and in your backyard, and in areas that, even though we were in Sacramento and Davis, and after the internet really took off, it's funny. You always ask people, because you want to make sure you're spending money right. And this Asian guy with this hard accent, I asked him, said, where'd you get our number to call us? Google's number one. And it's just like the way he said it, and it's just like, oh, so then yeah, it was scary. And the yellow page advertisers, they would had this fear of, they would play on the fear of loss. Well, if you lose this, then you're going to lose out on this business. And at a certain point, you just have to bite it off and go, yeah, we're no longer going to do that. And yellow pages, is there even such a thing?
I don't even know if there's a phone.
I know there's an online, but
and they would come in my office, and they would try and play on this fear of loss. And I go, look, I got a story I got to tell you. Go. There was like a yellow page that came to our door, right? And that's what my wife always used. So she would go to the yellow pages, and she'd ask me questions, and I go, just ask Google. She's like, I don't know how to use the computer. I don't want to use it. No, yeah. And I go, and I show her, and I showed her twice. And after showing her twice, I go out to take the trash, and in the bottom of the trash can, it's a big, huge trash can, right? And in the bottom of it is the yellow pages, thrown away, not even unwrapped, right? I'm like, what the heck? I spend like $20,000 a month to be in that thing, right? So I climb in the trash can, I pull that thing out, right? And my legs are hanging out, and I come in, and it's nasty, it's been in the trash, right? Throw it on the kitchen counter. I go, what's this? She says, oh, I'll never use it. I go, what do you mean I'll never use it? She says, I'll just Google that question. I showed her twice, right? How to do that. And she went from, well, I'll never use a computer, I hate that, right? To throwing away the phone book, right? I would tell the people would come in, I would tell the salespeople from the phone book that they about fall over in their seat. They'd just be like, and I go, yeah, so I'm sorry, I can't advertise with you anymore. And they're like, they're watching their commissions just fly away, And it was like they were dropping like flies. Every time it'd be somebody new. So yeah, things change in business, I guess is what I'm saying. And
they can be catastrophic.
Yeah. And
to a business, they can be catastrophic.
Like what we're going through right now with the AI. There's a huge shift going on.
Yeah.
Jobs are going to be lost. Jobs are going to be created.
Yep.
But we're going to be better off in the future for it. But there's a price to pay.
There is. In fact, that's what I tell my plumbers. I go, look, you're the last ones to be replaced, guaranteed, right? Everybody else. And as a result of that, and something to, Mike Rowe's been saying this for a long time, but dirty jobs guy.
Yeah.
But
Mike's brilliant.
but he's been saying, yeah, the trades are the way to go.
Yes.
I mean,
And there's new trades being developed.
there are, and like our plumbers, they make double what somebody that just went and got a master's or a bachelor's degree.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not going to get, a master's in a marketable field, good luck, because you're going to be replaced. Definitely, absolutely, without a doubt. And other thing, truck driver is going to be replaced.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. You know what's going to drive that? It's not going to be people going, oh, well, this or that. It's going to be insurance companies. Insurance companies are going to go, yeah, it costs X amount to insure a robot, and if you want to insure a live person with all their flaws and whatnot,
It's double, maybe.
it's double, triple, quadruple, maybe. Yep. And so it'll go that direction. It's we did a job for a guy that owned a bunch of what was it? Pizza places, Little Caesars pizzas,
Mm-hmm.
and he says, yeah, we just bought 4. They're $100,000 each pizza making robots. He says, I'm so excited.
Really?
Yeah. Going to take over 3 shifts of people, right? He's going to do better than, and he says, then I never call him sick. And so now in those pizza places, he just has to have one person on the counter. They makes the pizzas. They makes the pizzas for him. You just load it all up, makes the pizzas, throw it in the oven. It comes out, throw it in a box, whatnot, and you can handle the cash register and anybody that comes in at the same time.
So we went from like 6 or 7 employees to 1.
Yeah, this was like 5 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
And then the people would call in sick, and then he's always having to deal with it. And it's like, pretty soon he finds he's working his own store, You don't have time for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's coming, and all these jobs that if you don't do something that's unique, different, and going to require you to use your brain, right? Then yeah, you're going to be replaced. There's no more assembly workers. There's one person that's going to be highly skilled that's going to keep the robots working. That's what it's going to come down to.
So the moral of the story is buy more real estate because they can't replace you, and you have steady income.
Yeah, people have to live somewhere.
Yeah, that's right. Necessity of life.
And so yeah, and I would never get in the used car business again. But I'm in there, so
You're there, yes.
Right. Yeah, it's way too volatile. There's just things that are out of your control that just can change the market. And the other thing is, if you're honest and you're operating in a space where so many people are dishonest, it's challenging.
Yeah.
And so it's challenging because everybody assumes that you're dishonest. Everybody comes in there like, yeah, you're a thief, freaking a liar. I don't know if I want to buy something from you or not. It's like, no, we're not.
Mm-hmm.
We're not. We're really not. But and then the other thing is like they just out of the air, like Kelly Blue Book will just decide, oh well, the value of these cars are worth less, and then people come in and like, well, you can't find her for that price. Well, I'm not paying any more than that. So then it just slows down and it doesn't sell.
Right.
And then yeah, because now Kelly Blue Book is telling you to sell every car for less than what you paid for it. How do you stay in business like that? You cannot,
You can't.
And so there are just things like that become very, very hard. And then managing people. I mean, I could go on about like employees that I've managed. Some of them are just terrible. Some are great, but even the ones that are great, they require, a lot of work. Tenants, once a month, did you pay the rent? Did you not? You didn't pay the rent. We're going to get on it.
Yeah, you don't pay, you don't stay.
And if you did, then yeah, is there everything going good? Can you? I love my good tenants. I do. And the bad tenants, they get theirs. So something else, other apartments is kind of fun. So so you always run a credit check. It used to be that you'd actually get a paper copy of it, right? Now it's easier. I just say go on Zillow, fill it out on Zillow, and you can pay your money there. I'm not in the business. I don't want to take your $20 for a credit check or $30 or whatever it is. I want, knowing that you're not going to qualify and maybe keep 10 of it or something stupid like that. I want you to get in a place, right? And so even if you don't qualify for mine, at least if you fill it out there and you pay your $30 there, then whoever else opens it up on Zillow, then you've paid it once for 30 different places. And so I highly recommend that. They have great tools. It's a great app for that type of. I don't know how you guys feel about it. I hate it. I don't know, because they're trying to farm it off to some other people, but who knows? But
they provide a service in the marketplace.
They do, and I think they do a pretty good job with it. Well, it used to be there was a paper copy, so somebody would not pay their rent, and so I would go over and I have a black magic marker, and I have their 5-page credit check or credit report, right? And I would write on it in a black magic marker. I'd go, hey, you need to pay your rent, and if you don't, you have good credit, it's decent, and this is going to make it so that you can get into a nice place. This is going to make it so that it's going to affect your job. It's going to affect what you pay for interest, how you can buy a car, all this stuff. I said, so let me help you out here. And so I would write on it rent default in the rent default area, right? I'd write on it, flip over eviction, right? I'd write on the judgment, and I'd write the judgment, and they go, wait a minute, I don't owe you that. I go, no, you don't understand, right? If I have to evict you, I got to pay somebody to do it. And you're going to stay in here until this time. I'm charging you for all that time, right? This is what you're going to owe. And they'd be like, oh, what can I do? Well, I just want them out. So look, you haven't paid your rent. I'll tell you what, you move out in 10 days, I'll give you back $100, $300, whatever it was, because it was their deposit anyways, right? Sure. And if you leave it clean and neat, then I'll give you back whatever, right? Because I just wanted them out. They weren't able to pay. Want them out and get somebody else in. So I would do that. One time I did that, and this young couple, they seemed to be pretty decent people, and they were going to college, and they had I want to say that they paid, like the first couple times they paid in blocks, like they paid for 6 months because they got like grants. They were going to school with grants, and then they just they were paying month to month, and they didn't pay, and somebody had told them, they said, oh, well, just don't pay your rent. You can save your money for your deposit on the next place, right? Like, okay, great. And so then I did that to them, and they all of a sudden, they're smart kids. They realized what this was going to do. They paid their rent that day. They gave me proper notice. When they moved out, their place was so clean that I tried to call them because I wanted them to clean the rest of the places when people moved out.
Yeah.
Like it was that good.
Hire them for cleaning.
And it was that process. And so somehow I just came up with these processes and maybe I'd heard about it or kind of developed it over time to make things like that happen. That was an interesting time. I think we had one child while we were there. Most of the time we were just the two of us, me and my wife, and so yeah, one time we had this lady that moved in, nice lady, and her boyfriend, he was actually this motorcycle riding like Hell's Angel looking dude, and we're like, hey, that's not okay. But once she lives there and he moves in, it becomes hard to get him out.
Correct.
And so then next thing we know is there's like some black gangbangers that are like knocking on the door, these bad dudes, right? And so we're like, hey, something's going on. So we called the police, and they're like, oh, well, we don't know if we can get somebody out there. They always give you that because they don't want you involved in it, right? And so this was kind of crazy, but next thing we know, they come and they kick down the door and they raid the house, right? We had several doors kicked in there. It was just kind of the area, right? And so they kick in the door, they raid the house. He's out, and they have him on the ground in handcuffs, like face down, hand behind his back. At that point, I walk out there and I go, what's going on here? What is this? And I'm just like grilling him. And he's like, oh, I don't know. And
grilling the police?
What's that?
The police?
No, I'm grilling the tenant that's on the ground in handcuffs. Yeah, I'm the one that called on him, right? And so then, and the police officers, there's like some inside, they're searching the place, and there's some outside. He's just snickering, the police officer. He's like, he knows I'm the one that called, right? And so then the crazy thing is, so that was the police department. Next thing I know, like 3 hours later, the sheriff's department does the same thing.
At the same place?
Yeah. And then the next thing, and they picked up the gangbangers, so they were waiting for him. I think the first time was the gangbangers. Second time, they picked up him, right? Third time, it was the narcotics squad. They came in and they busted in the place and broke down. And she was just like, she's just kind of this sweet lady. Somehow she got involved in this crap. And she's like wigged out. Like she was like, ah, and grilling her too, because like she deserved it. She let that come into her life. And so then now the place is vacant, and I
With the door missing.
well, it wasn't missing, but
Just as though the jam was all messed
pull it
up.
back up, a couple nails, yeah. But we but like her stuff's there and stuff like that, and so we called her emergency contact, which happened to be her daughter. That happened to be where she was living. She's like, I'm never coming back to that place. I go, well, we need your keys and we need this, right? So it was the easiest eviction I've ever had. It was awesome. It was like we're like, hey, there's a problem there, and then it just got escalated, and like that all happened within just a few days, and then the next thing we know, it's like she goes, I don't want anything there. I go, look, we'll just throw it all in a box and we bring it to you. You grab the keys and you'll do your stuff, right? And it was like she's out, cleaned it up, moved somebody in, and back to making money. It was just we just had some really funny experiences like that.
So how would you build real estate as a business or as a side business now that you've been through it?
Well, okay, so this is what I would do. Okay, if you are, this is the problem is somebody gets into their job and they go, oh, okay, well, I'm going to move out of my house. So they rent, and they rent with a group of people, right? And then pretty soon, like, okay, I don't like living with other people, and so it's like they do this in steps, right? Yeah. But the steps that they do are backwards. So then it's like, oh, well, I'm going to get a girlfriend. So then I'm going to have one room with my girlfriend to myself, and then maybe they get married, they start having some kids, and then pretty soon it's like, oh, well, we got to rent a place. And then they rent an apartment. And then they're like, well, we got to rent a house. So they rent a house. Or they rent a duplex and then a house, right? And so there's this progression, right? And it's like, why would you do that? Just circumvent all of that, right? If I was talking to somebody, I'd say, look, my duplex. You can get into it with an FHA loan with 3.5% down. And granted, it's not going to be easy, right? Most are going to go like, no, this is a duplex. We don't want to do it. But they're out there. There are lenders out there, and you guys probably know who they are, right? That will do that type of thing.
You can get the financing.
I think most of the lenders would do that.
Yeah. The challenge.
Ran into some problems like that.
They have to be able to qualify for it.
Yeah.
And usually when they're just starting out, they don't have enough money to be able to buy.
Well, and this is what I tell people. I go, look, beg, borrow, or steal. Go find a rich uncle. And go, look, I want to be partners with you.
Or rich grandfather.
Or a rich grandfather,
Mm-hmm.
You have to be rich.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like.
Well, I know some real estate agents and other people that just partner with their kids.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll put the down payment, and
well, that's what
you go manage the property.
So
we'll do it together.
I believe in this process so much, and I've been preaching to my kids forever. That what I did was I said, look, we're going to buy a place. I think it's important when they're single that they're there in a dorm, that they've got people around them, friends, stuff like that. That you don't have. I think it's easy to get depressed, and it's easy to fall out of school if you're like a single guy or a single girl, and you're just like isolated by yourself. So I think it's important to be part of that. But like once you're married, I say married because that's what I believe in, but we'll just say even in a committed relationship, right, for the rest of the world, right? I don't know who's going to watch this, and like maybe 3 people, who knows, right? You guys hope more. 8 people, okay. Maybe I get up to 9 after I'm talking. Right?
That's right.
But I think it's important, and so why do that, right? Why not talk to a parent and go, look, I found this duplex. If we put $20,000 into it, $40,000 into it, whatever it is, and I'll manage it, I'll do it, and we can be partners, equal partners, 50-50 partners, 51-49 partners, whatever the case may be, right? Well, I'm the one that initiated in this case. Now I initiated with my grandfather too, and so like my daughter and son-in-law, it was before they were married. I think we closed on it a week before they were married, I think is what the timeline was. And my son-in-law, this is kind of funny, smart kid. He's actually in a doctorate program now. And so he is relatively smart, but he didn't have a dad that he sat next to in a truck that talked to him all this time, right?
Right.
So he didn't understand it. Yes, his parents own houses, but I don't, they just own the house and maybe a few rental properties. And I don't know that they really talked to him. I don't know that he understood, the ways that you make money in real estate. And so kind of forced it. I just said, he's like, oh, I don't know about the stress and all of a sudden I go, I don't worry about it. And they just did it. Right? And so then they move in and they move into this basement unit together and they're newlyweds and they don't care. They just, they're googly-eyed at each other. And, in fact, this basement unit, it didn't even have a door on the bathroom. Right.
Oh.
And so, but it was too small for like a normal door. And so I took it and we put the door on an angle and I had a contractor put it in, right? Which I don't know if I would do that again because I had to take the door out to change the washer and dryer that were in there. It's too small. I had to take the whole door apart. But then I made it so that it was easier to do in the future.
Easier to take off.
Yeah. And I was like, no, we're putting a brand new one in. We're not messing around. I want the best one in there, right? Because I don't ever want to get it. But it's in Rexburg, Idaho, right? And it's a college town. It's a growing college town. And
it's a duplex or single family?
And it's a duplex, yeah.
So where is this at?
Basement. Rexburg, Idaho.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. We're, I want to say Rick's College, but they call it BYU, Idaho now. That's where they did their undergraduate work. And so, but all of a sudden, we'd go up there and we'd visit with them and we'd fix it up. We'd paint stuff and we'd put in flooring and those type of things. And it was an opportunity, one, to spend time with them, two, doing something that was constructive and productive and to teach him and her how to do things. And then all of a sudden he had this pride of ownership. It was like when he was mowing the lawn, he was mowing his lawn. Mm-hmm. When he was painting, he was painting his house. It wasn't, I'm doing this for my parents or I was doing it. It was his. And so he really fell into that. And then he managed it, he and my daughter. And so they learned things by managing it. They became more well-rounded people because of that. They learned how to budget things. And so there's a separate account for those properties. And we did it 3 times. So when he was doing his master's program, and we decided, okay, he's going to be at BYU in Provo, then we're going to buy another house. And what's funny is my daughter was working in a physical therapy office, and she talks to people, and they're like, "Oh yeah, how's it going so fast? I can't even buy a house." Well, yeah, why you can't is because people, when they were there, they're looking at it going, "Well, I don't like that one. I don't like the way it looks. It needs paint. It needs this. It needs that." Well, you know what? Just find something that meets the criteria and buy it, and then make it what you want it to be, right?
Right.
And so we just said, what do we want? We want a duplex. We want a cash flow. That's it. Mm-hmm. A duplex and cash flow, right? And then the rest of it are just kind of neat bonuses that you get that get added on. So when we bought that one, same thing. We'd go up there and revisit. We have family there. We visit with family, and we do work there, and we got things ready. And sometimes we work really late, and we just really make it happen. Well, and then they moved to Las Vegas because that's where he's doing his doctorate. My daughter she's now a doctor of physical therapy. My son-in-law, he will be a doctor of soil science. I'm going to call him Dr. Dirt.
Dr. Dirt.
Yeah. And so
soil science.
Yep. And the other thing that's really smart about him is rather than spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on schooling, then he said, okay, what field will they pay me to go to school? So they paid him like $28,000 a year to do his master's. They paid him, I think they're paying like $36,000 a year to do his doctorate. And I think he has to teach like one class or something like that because they want him to get teaching experience and stuff like that. And so they've paid him to go to school. So he doesn't have, he has virtually no school debt. and he'll be a doctor of soil science. And I'm sure the doctor of soil science don't make as much as proctologists or something crazy like that, but he's going to make a lot of money with zero debt. My daughter, they said, okay. At a certain point, I said, look,
excuse me.
When you are, I'll pay for your undergraduate work, and my properties have been able to do that, right? I had 3 kids in school at one time, right, or almost, always 2, but and paid for all of it, and I tried to get them to get scholarships and stuff like that, but the properties are what paid for that. So then they're in Las Vegas, and so we buy another duplex there, and this is kind of fun. My daughter, and we're in the midst of working on it. My daughter says, "Can we do this from like an Airbnb?" Sure, why not? Right? I'll try it. I'll try anything, right? And she says, "And let's do it like a Santorini thing." Like, Santorini, what's that? Right? I didn't even know. So I look it up, and I'm like, "Well, that's a pretty good idea." I asked her, I go, "Who came up with that idea?" She says, "Well, you did." I go, "I did? I don't remember that. What are you talking about?" So I say that to my wife. My wife goes, "You didn't come up with that. I came up with that." Oh, okay, yeah. By the way, my wife is the smarter of the two of us, definitely, without a doubt, right? But she doesn't have the same drive. The drive, yeah, my lack of intelligence is made up by the drive,
Yeah.
So, anyways, so that's
what it
so
is in my house, too.
I know your wife, yeah. So we're working towards that, and right now it's just rented out, and yeah. So when he graduates in about a year and a half with his doctorate, they will both be doctors, and rather than have, yes, they'll have $100,000 in debt or whatever the case may be, for my daughter's schooling, but they'll both be very high wage earners, and they'll have $250,000 in equity in those 3 properties. That's their portion that they have, which gives them all sorts of options.
Right.
And the fascinating thing about it is, so my son-in-law, you get a doctorate, that takes a long time, and you got to be pretty dedicated, and you have to be kind of a developed person. Well, having to manage people with the manage the properties, having to do the physical work too, having to spend the time with me and working on things and talking with things, stuff like that. It kind of gave him, 1, the confidence, and 2, the thought that, yes, I could get a doctorate. I don't need to just worry about making a living, because I have a place to live. It's less than I would pay for rent for anywhere else, and my future is already progressing.
Right.
So rather than give up and go, okay, well, I'll just go get a job with my bachelor's, or I'll go get a job with my master's. He's like, no, I'm going to take this as far as I can go, and I really feel like the properties have given him that boost to be able to do that.
Right. And you guys are carrying some debt on those properties, I'm assuming.
Yes.
So another fun thing that you can do for them is show them how much their net worth goes up every month with the debt reduction.
So
just debt reduction alone increases your financial statement, because that's when I figured that out quite a few years ago. And I look at my portfolio, I go, wait a minute here. My net worth goes up this much every month. And I don't do anything about it. It just automatically happens because of the debt reduction.
So this is kind of fun. I get a call from him, and Rexburg's a long ways away. And there's no airports in Rexburg that you can just fly into very cheaply. It's you fly into Idaho Falls, which is expensive, and you got to take 3 connecting flights to even get there, and then you got to rent a car and
then drive for a few hours.
So it's none of it's easy. In fact, we had some work that needed to be done that was kind of like, it's hard to find. Just being a contractor, there's some things I just want to do myself, and that's just me. And so the last time me and him went and did some work there, I actually flew into Las Vegas, and we drove from Las Vegas to Rexburg, and then we rode together. So it gave us time in the car, and he did all the driving, which is fine. I prefer that, actually. And so it's not easy. So he calls me one day and he says, "Hey, the fridge is out on the upstairs unit there in Rexburg." And I said, "Okay." And I'm thinking, go through, and I'm going, "Oh crap, I got to get somebody there to switch the fridge out. I got to buy one. I got to do it from remotely and stuff like that." And he says, so, and I'm expecting this, like he's just handing this off to me, right? Instead, he says, so I already talked to Home Depot. It's $850 for the same exact size fridge and whatnot, and it's extra $25 for them to haul away the old one and drop it off, install it, haul away the old one. I'm going, yes. I said, well, what do you think we should do? He says, well, I think we should replace the fridge. I'm, okay. Well, hold on. Do you have money in the bank account? He goes, yeah, there's $3,000 in there. I go, okay. Are all the payments made and on? So we had 2 properties at the time, and we just closed on the second property maybe 2 months earlier. And he says, yeah, there's $3,000. He says there's a few utility bills that are going to be coming out a little later, but they're a couple $100, so it should be fine. I go, okay. Well, what'd you learn? He says, well, if you have the money, buy the fridge. I go, yes. What else did you learn? and he says, I don't know. What was I supposed to learn? I said, well, you have $3,000 in the account. We just bought another place, and we've been draining the account by, with all the stuff we've been buying to fix it up, and you still have $3,000 in the account. So what you should have learned is this is exactly how you build wealth. So that's, and it's kind of fun in that respect. So I think it's important to say this is there's kind of like 6 different ways that by owning a rental property that you make money. So one is we'll call it appreciation, right? I don't know, you guys may have different terms, but I call it appreciation, right? So the market goes up, right? The value of the property goes up. Now, how much you have invested in that property has gone up. The next thing is the debt pay down, right? Every month, somebody's making that payment, whether it's you or somebody else, and the amount that you owe the bank goes down, so that your equity position is increased, right? The next one is cash flow. So the more that the more that you can make above all of your costs, that's money in the bank. And then the next one is your taxes. I'm missing one, right? I gotta think about it. I gotta leave my notes.
Well, you also save the money for the repairs because you're doing the work.
Oh yeah, that's true. Oh, that's true. Yes. The other thing is by simply
and
fixing
you're managing
it up,
you're not paying a
simply
manager.
fixing it up, you have sweat equity in it.
And that improves the value as well.
Improves the value.
Accelerates the appreciation.
Yeah, and we've done that with the properties. I mean, it's a coat of paint and some click together flooring. It's easy to do. Anybody can do it. I say anybody, but I've had some people that I go, yeah, you can't.
Yeah.
Most of them are realtors.
The other thing that makes incredible sense is area that you're actually owning the real estate in. So if you own something in California, you have to pay more of the utility costs. So your expenses are a little bit higher in one location. And when you go to another location, the tenant pays everything. So your expenses are less. So by doing that, your net at the end of the month is a little bit higher. And the responsibility and liability of those go away as a landlord and owner.
That is correct. Seems like you're pushing people out of California. I don't blame you. But
that actually is what's really happening.
Yeah.
There's just so many things going on here. It's not fun. You talk about buying a duplex, right? Where are you going to be able to buy a duplex in Sacramento? Where are they? Can you buy them?
Yeah, the cash flows.
That cash flow. My son sold his duplex 3 years ago in Carmichael. It wasn't the best street in the world. He sold it for $600,000. Try to buy that today. Bay Area guy bought it. It's been negative ever since. But that's just what it works here. So we went and bought a house for him. He and I partnered up, and we bought a rental out there, a single family. Paid like $110,000 for it.
Where?
In Cookeville, Tennessee. In Tennessee. And so right now it's worth $260,000, $280,000. The tenant now, the rents are up to $1,500 a month, and we own it free and clear. So doing what you did to your children, I did the same thing to mine. And he refinanced his duplex many years ago. And he said, I want to go buy a truck. I said, well, guess what? 20,000 of it is coming to me, and you and our partner, we're going to go buy a house. So we bought a house. I ended up paying cash for it and then carried the note for him.
Right.
So I earned a little bit of interest on his money, and now he has a net worth of a house that he's living in because he sold his duplex and 1031 exchanged into another property, but then took the other portion, which was owner occupied, and bought a single family. So he now has 2 properties.
Right.
And he has a great net worth because he put quite a bit of money down on his personal residence.
Well, he needs 2 more duplexes.
He needs 2 more duplexes. So exactly right. So now you got me going. Now we have this other property free and clear. We could probably pull a little bit of cash and a little cash flow, and then plop down and buy another duplex.
Definitely should.
So
I strongly agree with that.
Yeah.
So
In summary, your strategy, I want to kind of recap our conversations from before and what we talked about today, which is start early, buy it, live in it, fix it, improve it, and hold it a long time, and buy more and hold them a long time and just keep them. And if they really, really don't work for you, then get out of them and move to something else that works for you.
Yeah, I think at a certain point you have enough money there, and so when you are leveraging the bank's money, you're going to make the most on your money. And so there's one more way that you make money that I think is important, and we'll just call it number 6, and that is that you are running a business. You have business write-offs. And so, like, you use your vehicle for that business. Well, the amount that you use the vehicle for that business, that's a write-off. The amount that you use your phone for that business, that's a write-off. And there's other things that are benefits. And so, like,
and travel to that.
Yeah, and if you lived, and travel, right? And you're going to have fun on your travel. You're going to go see your son, right? But you're also checking on your property, right? And that trip becomes a business trip. And so, there are, the tax code is written to encourage certain information. And some people call them loopholes, some people call them whatever. But basically, it's to encourage you to do certain things. The government wants you to own properties. They want you to start businesses. And so, this whole, well, let's just say that there is one side of the political spectrum that is like making profits bad, and
which profit then pays for them to be
and it's
in
not
business.
Yes, I've made money. Yes, I've worked for the money that I've made, but I also provide wonderful jobs for people to make money. I also provide nice places for people to live in, and so take advantage of those tax benefits, because you are now, once you own a property, you are now a business. Call yourself that. We have a business account. It's Cobabe Properties, right? And it is, we have a business account. We have lines of credit on that business account. In fact, one of those lines of credit we used to buy a place for my middle daughter and son-in-law in Palm Springs. That's where he's working right now, and that's where they're living. And so we actually did that because we have a line of credit there, and actually the interesting thing about a line of credit is it's not a fully amortized loan. It's simple interest.
Correct.
So I'm not paying all the interest top loaded. And so if you can get out of, I guess what I'm saying is there's ways to use the system to your benefit because you're a business. So I think it's important. I always try and do this. I go, look, we'll just say that you buy a place for $100,000, right? And I would like to use easy math because then it helps people to understand it, right? And then you can just apply it to whatever numbers you want, right? But we're just going to say that you bought the property at $100,000, okay? And that you put 10% in, which is $10,000, right? And if the economy goes up And it was funny. A lot of people get this wrong. Some people get it right. But you go, okay, the economy went up 2%, right? Now your $100,000 place is now worth $102,000. And so how much did you make on your original investment? And they're like, $2,000, 2%? No.
Mm.
No. What was your original investment? 10. What is $2,000 of 10? That's 20%.
20%.
And you made 20% because the market went up. And Joel,
And in real estate, that's a slow year.
exactly. Okay. Joel, how much does the market usually go? Like if you were to average it out for the last,
I've tracked it over 40 plus years, and it was 4 point something.
yeah. Okay. So 4 point something over the last 40 years, right?
Yeah.
Now there are dips, right?
Right. There's definitely places where it went down, and there's places when it went up.
Back up. But do you pay?
But on average, compounded year over year.
Are you going to pay more for the property 20 years from now or less?
More.
Always more, right?
Always more.
Are you going to pay more for rent or are you going to pay less?
Exactly.
Always more.
Inflation's not going away.
It is not. And it doesn't matter about the dips.
And that's one of the things I love about paying on a 30-year loan or a 15-year loan is that's not going to go up. Your rents will go up, your appreciation will go up, your expenses will go up, but your mortgage is going to stay the same.
Yes,
Now,
if you get a fixed rate mortgage. And that I would never get anything other than a fixed rate mortgage.
One thing I'll tell you, when I was liquidating all my stuff out of California and I was buying out of state, I came up with a thought and I thought, okay, why am I doing this? So if I decide that I'm going to put $60,000 into a property as a down payment and get it all done, my question to me was, what do I have to do to protect the $60,000? It had nothing to do with the value of the property. It was my cash infusion into the asset. So then I started thinking about it, and I put 15-year loans on most of those houses, which you could do in those days, right? So what happened was, what would happen if the market shifted and started going down a little bit? So it would go down 10%, 20%, whatever. My concern was protecting the 60,000.
Right.
So if I had debt reduction to help protect the equity, which was the 60,000, and if the property devaluated a little bit, okay, so it devaluated, I had debt reduction. Now my net worth or my down payment was worth maybe $40,000. So then the recovery happened. So then the value of the property started going back up. So then my 40,000 went to 45,000 to 50,000, but at the same time my debt kept going down. So my 60,000 came back to me like that,
right,
within a year or less or a little bit more. So now all of a sudden I was whole again with my 60,000 because I was working in two different directions,
right,
appreciation and debt
and
reduction.
Debt paydown.
Yeah. So once I understood that in my mind, this was quite a few years ago, I thought, oh, for me that works, because I was just important to me was that 60,000. Now it's so far apart that I have tons and tons of equity in my real estate. But that was my concern at the moment, and it was a fear that am I going to lose my 60,000 because I put it in here and the cycle could take it all away. But once I came to terms with how to protect it, it was no big deal to me.
Yeah. So I've watched so many people, and this is actually sad, is, they'll buy a house or they'll buy a property or something like that. And then the market will go down and they'll say, oh, well, it's not worth what I paid for it. So then they give it back to the bank. They don't realize that it's going to come back.
Yes.
And so
hold long enough.
they give up that position. It's basically like selling your stock when it's down. Why realize the loss? Yeah. Especially in something that is secure like real estate, where it will go back up. And so so that's kind of I don't know. Like I said, I've just seen people do that. Why realize the loss? And so yeah, I've seen it go up. I've seen it go down. First one I bought at the peak. Second one I bought it as it was going back up. Made money very quickly in the beginning. The first one I bought, yeah, it went down. It wasn't worth what we paid for it. Didn't matter. it was making the
Can you
payments.
weather the storm?
Yeah. And so, and really, if you buy it right, it's not even really a storm. And so we, and then the third one, well, the third one was the apartments, but then the fourth one was, we bought it at the very bottom. In fact, we were in contract and he wanted out of the contract because he goes, I could make another $15,000 if I just sell it to the next person, right? And we had all our ducks in a row, so we didn't let him out. And then the next one, we thought it was at the bottom, but it was not. And then there's like some commercial property in there. That's another thing is just kind of as a side note, is if you own a business, don't rent from somebody. Do everything you can
To own it.
Yeah. That's, I think we bought it, and I think I bought it 10 years ago. I think we paid, it's just a little house on an acre. And that's probably the best one I've ever done. So market was down. We bought it at 250,000, and it's worth like 1.2. I mean, just and what have we done? Let's see. We painted the house. We put a roof on it. We did put up another building just for mechanic work and that kind of stuff. And it's got a storage building and a can, and we put, I don't know, probably thousands of dollars worth of 3/4 crushed rock. So there's parking everywhere. And yeah, I mean, it's just, to coin a phrase that your uncle says, and I'm waiting for this, right? Is someday somebody's going to come along and bring me a wheelbarrow full of money, and I'm going to go and not know what to say, and I go, oh, he's hesitating. I'll bring 2 more buckets of money, right? And set the right there, and I'm like, okay, here's the keys, and I'm throwing on my shoulder and going, we're moving the business. Let's go,
Yeah.
And I'll just move it further out to where things are. Or the other thing is, I own the property. I've owned it for a long time. I got tons of equity in there. I could build 2 tilt-ups on it, tear the house down. It's your business is a tool to get money cheaply. You cannot find commercial money anywhere for as cheap as you can get it from the SBA. And the SBA they're very favorable if you run a profitable business. Do not pay rent. Find something, build something, do something, buy something. But that's your nest egg, It's like, how many people own a business and go, oh, I'm going to stash away, $1 million over the next 10 years? Nobody. No. They put the money back into the business. They put the money into hiring people. They put money into advertising. You spend everything that you don't take home. And anything that you do take home, you just spend it on yourself.
Right.
You live in a nicer place. You have to drive a nicer car. If you do, then Porsche Motors. But
Ferraris.
Yeah. Tell us, you want a Ferrari? What's your Ferrari? No, I wouldn't recommend that. That's not how you get wealthy, by the way. That's how you.
So buying a Pantera doesn't make it worthwhile.
That's how your children spend your wealth that you worked your life on. That's what basically happens.
Correct.
So, anyways, back to my analogy. Okay, so, and you can apply this. You said you're buying a place for $500,000. That's fine, right? But we're just going to say $100,000. So $100,000. You put 10 into it. Market goes up. We'll just say 2%. We're going to be very conservative, right? As you said. Typically goes up 4, but we'll say 2, just for fun. That's 20%, right, on your money. Now you pay it down, right? On a $10,000 piece of property, you put on a $100,000 piece of property, you put $10,000 into, right? You're going to pay down the debt about the same, about $2,000, right? So now we're up to 40%, right? And then a little bit of sweat equity and whatnot. It's not hard to gain $10,000 in the beginning. Maybe you don't get that every year, but you will get some, right? And so there's money to be made there, and we'll just call that we'll just call it $2,000 too, right? Now you're up to 60% that you made on your money, and then you have the positive cash flow. If you bought it right, even in the beginning, you should be getting a positive cash flow. will just say that after all expenses, that's another $2,000. And that's not hard to get. I believe that in the beginning, that's probably what we were getting, probably about $200 a month. That was way back 30 something years ago, right? And now, because things are paid down and whatnot, there's, I mean, on that duplex, right? It cash flows because I did pull some money out for something. It cash flows, I don't know, like $1,800 a month. You know, you add that up and you go, oh, that's a fair chunk of change. That's like, yeah, now you're saving up for the next investment just from the proceeds of it. Now you're saving, you know, and so it grows, right? And now I'm at 80% on my original investment. And for about every $100,000 that you have on a piece of property, you are going to save about $1,000 in taxes, give or take, because of depreciation
and the write-offs and
write-offs and whatnot. Yeah, and so you are going to. So now, what is that? We're at 90% on your money. If I did the math right, either 70 or 90. I don't know. At any rate, and then the next thing is some of your expenses that you're experiencing now, they will now be write-offs, and so you could add another 500, maybe even 1,000. We'll just call it 1,000 to that as well, right? And so now you're making 100% a year on your money, and you're using other people's money. Now, when it comes to a duplex, if you have a family, buy a duplex, live in one side, rent out the other side. Okay. If you're a single guy, this is what I would do. I would rent out every room, and I would take the smallest room, the one that doesn't have the bathroom in it, and I would rent them all out. And pretty soon, you not only will be, you can even do that now in California's market, and it would pay for all of it. You would basically have a place to live, and I don't like the word free, but other people would pay for it. And if it was me, and they coined that house hacking, right? Well, this is how I would hack it. And I heard somebody do this. They basically converted the garage, and they lived in the garage. They had a little junior ADU in there, and they rented out the whole thing, right? But they still had their kitchen, and they still had their bathroom, and they still had the living room where their TV was, where they could watch TV, and they just had roommates, right? I would take it one step further. I'd probably rent out the garage, and I would go build a
tough shed.
A tough shed, exactly. I would
put a little insulation in there.
Yeah, I would finish it off.
Extension cord for power.
When I moved out, I would call that, an office, or when I went to sell it, or whatever the case may be. That's going to add value. I guarantee it.
I could see a gray water sink with a hose coming out.
You don't even need that.
Using that to water the plants.
You've got access. You've got access to the kitchen. You've got access to the bathroom and stuff like that. But I'll tell you what, you could really make this snowball very quickly if you did that, because you would have, not only would you have a place to live, everybody's got to live somewhere, right? You not only would have a place to live, but you'd have probably $1,000 a month coming in every single month beyond all of your expenses. And you can either save that, you could pay down your loan, you could refinance the loan, you have all these options, right? And I would say if you did it like that, within a year's time, you'd be buying your second one. Within another year's time, you'd be buying your third one. And once you buy 3 of them, you kind of catch this bug, unless you get, unless you start looking at, expensive cars. I wouldn't do that. Because that'll blow your plan out of the water, right? And so yeah, I would say, I'll tell you what, if I lost everything today, okay, and it was just me and my wife, I could gain back everything I had in 10 years. I know for a fact I could do that. Absolutely. If it was just me as a single guy, half that time. So I guess the knowledge that I am giving here, that you guys know, right, is it's that valuable. So like with my kids, I put the money in, I bought the place. We're 5149 partners. It's my money.
That's what I did.
It's my money, right? And I'm the one that has done it. I'm the one that sacrificed. I know, and so yes, I don't care about the money being 50-50, but and yes, I am not making as much money on it, right? I'm only making half the money that I could have putting the same investment in. But really, what am I investing in? I'm investing in my children.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, and that's my plan with all of my kids is I want to help them. I want to get them to those first three, because once you get three, they're like, okay, so, and my daughter, she's like, now she thinks very entrepreneurial. It's not just that she's a doctor of physical therapy. She's like, okay, so let's see, if I started my own place or I bought a practice, where would I be? What would I do? She's only been practicing for a year,
Right.
and
So
she's there.
here's another scenario that could work for them. Let's say they want to start having children. What if they bought a property and dedicated that property to each child? And it's 18 years before they get to college. And what if you want their college to be paid for and not come out of your own pocket?
Oh yeah.
So now you have a piece of real estate that is almost free and clear. So the tenant makes the payments. So you could go ahead and borrow the college fund, pay for the college, and the tenant is paying for your child's college, for that child's college.
That's what my properties have done.
Yeah. And so now that makes incredible sense, because now it's not coming out of the household fund to pay for your children at $100,000 or $200,000 or whatever the cost is. So you just finance it through your real estate, and it's still cash flows. And then you still hang on to the property. So a couple years down the road, that college debt is now paid off. And you get the tax deductions on top of all that.
Pay for your children, for your grandchildren, you name it. And then you can hire your children in your business too.
Oh yes.
And then
they could be.
And then the money that goes to college,
Yeah,
is their money.
Yes.
That's taxed at a much lower rate than your money.
Yes.
So
there's all kinds of different strategies
is.
you can do. That's what's fun about real estate.
So this is kind of fun too. This was quite a while ago. My wife, she just was, and it's my own fault. I managed them poorly, but even managing them poorly, you still do incredibly well. But some of the properties were a headache. Some of the tenants were a headache. And she was saying, oh, we should sell those properties. It's just a headache and whatnot. But we had about, $800 a month coming in from those properties. It's a lot more now. And she says, we should just sell them and get rid of the headache and this and that, and all this other stuff. And I could never get her to understand it, right? What I was thinking or how I was coming about it. And so until I said, okay, so, like our girls, they're in ballet classes and the kids are all in soccer and they have piano lessons and they have all these, extracurricular activities. I said, and we go to Disneyland, a couple times a year. And, there's all these things that we do. And I said, how do you pay for that? She goes, well, that comes out, we used to call it a duplex account. Now it's the Cobabe property account, right? Well, that comes out of the duplex account. I go, yeah. So if we sell them, we can talk about anything about proceeds from the money, but if we sell them, where's that money going to come from to make up the difference? I go, you'd have to get a job. And it's not just $800, right? Because if you went and got a job, then you'd be putting more miles on a car. We'd have to have another car that, not that we didn't have two cars, but it costs more to go to work, right? And then we'd have to pay for somebody to watch the kids while you're still at work and all this kind of stuff. I said, it's not just that you'd have to make $800 to make up the difference. It's that you'd have to make about 3 times that to make up the difference, right? So that's not just a part-time job, or it wasn't at the time anyways. And so all of a sudden it clicked for her. And she never once said, we should sell the property because it's a headache. What she started saying was, they didn't pay the rent yet. You need to be on top of them. Okay. Like the conversation just totally changed, right? And
now she's not wrong with getting rid of the headache.
Yes.
So you could sell the property and replace it with a better quality property to eliminate the headache.
That is correct.
So that's why I say always buy, never sell.
Yeah.
But that's incorrect. Always buy, never cash out.
Yes. That's a good way to put it. And instead, she would say, And what's funny, she'd always remind me, and it'd be like, we'd be laying in bed after watch TV, ready to go to sleep, and she's like, yeah, they didn't pay her. And it's 11 o'clock at night, and I'm going, okay, I'll take care of that tomorrow. Well,
You're depriving the kids from Disneyland.
I'm in, when I'm at work, I'm in work mode. When I'm, so I didn't think about it, right? And so the next night, like, hey, did you talk to the tenant? No, I didn't. I forgot to call him. Right? So then at a certain point, I just went, you know what? I'm tired of this. So she'd remind me. I'd call them at 11 o'clock at night. If they actually answered, I go, oh, I'm sorry. I just thought I'd leave a message for you. But since I got you on the phone, and she's like, what are you doing? I go, hey, they owe me money. I'm just, that's it. And so kind of made a decision that like, I was just going to take care of it right then, and so sometimes, it's so easy to get into procrastinating, and pretty soon, time goes on and stuff like that. And so I really try not to procrastinate anything. It's just like, okay, the problem, take care of it right now and move forward, and so that ends up being different there. And I present that to people, and they just, how you make money with real estate, and it's amazing to watch the light bulbs go on. They just go, wait a minute, I'm making maybe 12% in a good year on my stocks, and you're saying that you're making 90%, sometimes even better. And as it goes on, and the property gets paid down, right? You make less on it percentage-wise, but there's a lot more in equity there.
Right.
So
And your cash flow goes up substantially.
And also,
where in a stock market, you can't build equity in a stock.
No.
It just has to go up.
Yeah.
It's the only way to build the equity in that portfolio.
Yeah, it is. I kind of dabbled in it, and like I'll always dishearten because I guess I'm so used to making so much money, more money the other way.
You mean in real estate?
In real estate,
Yeah.
And so I will even like I have some annuities, right? And it's funny that the broker always gets irritated with me because like I'll put away, I don't know, $600 a month in an annuity, and it's funny. He said, yeah, you're one of my best clients. You put away money every month, right? And it's a lot. And I'm thinking, really, that's a lot? That doesn't seem like very much. But then I'll go, okay, this is the next plan. Okay, where am I going to get money from? Okay, I either have money in the bank or have money here or have money there. Why not? Or I'll pull the money out of the annuity, or borrow against it. He's like, well, do you just want to close it out? I'm like, no, I don't want to close it out. Oh, this is a perfect vehicle. It actually makes some interest, and it just sits there and it just grows every single month because I'm just putting in every single month. And then when I get ready to buy something, then I can grab $100,000 out just like that and at a drop of a hat and just do it. So there's that. You also get a lot of people that go, oh, I just don't have enough money. I can't do this. I can't do that. And I got tired of that. And I said, look, then buy a condo.
Mm-hmm.
Buy a condo. They're a couple $100,000, right? You can get into it 3.5%, right? Buy it, rent it out. I'd rent out both rooms. I'd sleep on the couch. That's how I would start because that's me, right? If you're not, that's fine. You're going to be a little bit slower, but you rent out one room, you live in one room, and they're going to pay for half of it. It's going to end up being less than what you're paying for rent. You're going to have all these other benefits, that come from owning a property. I don't like condos because I don't like HOAs, yeah. But
So one of the things that it took me 20 years to figure it out, which is the time is to your advantage. If you're in your 80s, you shouldn't be investing in real estate in the same way that we're talking about, because when you're 18 and you buy a property and you own it for 36 years, it's a huge investment. But it takes that time. And I think a lot of people are misrepresented in our society of, if I'm going to buy three, I have to buy it all 3 years. If you can do it in 3 years, great. Yeah. Or five in 5 years, whatever. But if it takes you 15 years,
20 years,
that's okay. 20 years too, you're still going to end up so much farther ahead.
When you should buy property?
Yesterday.
30 years ago.
Yeah, that's right.
You know when the second best time is to buy a piece of property that's going to make money for you?
Yeah,
today.
Right now, today.
Yeah.
It's the same as planting trees.
Mm-hmm.
It's
well, we work with different clients at different age levels and different positions in their life. So when we're working with somebody that's in their 40s or 50s, they still can have a long-term plan. I just talked to a client yesterday. He's 51. And so he says, I'm not going to retire for another 15 to 18 years. And I go, oh, well, that's great. You need to have a strategy to build wealth. You're in the wealth building strategy phase. Then once people get into their late 60s, 70s, now they need to be in their cash flow or income phase. So, but if you did this back here, you could be in that position and you have another income stream besides your Social Security, retirement, pensions, or whatever is involved. And so we work with different clients at different stages of life. So for the young people, it doesn't matter. Just get in there, buy something, go through the process, and write it out. But for the ones that are saying, I want to have cash flow, it's a little more challenging because then you need to put a lot of money down. Well, a lot of those people have a tremendous amount of cash sitting in their retirement or their 401ks, and they can pay cash, and do quite well, and leave a legacy for the rest of the heirs.
So I've always bought and held them, and this is interesting. You start to look at numbers a little differently and whatnot, and without, this was funny. I spoke to a bunch of youth at a church thing, and I wanted them to, one, see that you can set goals, that you can achieve those goals. I talked a bit about, so I ride double centuries, and
That's 200 miles
that's 200 miles in one day,
in one sitting.
Yeah.
Jeez.
You get on the bike, you get off 200 miles.
And
later.
typically somewhere between 10 to 20,000 feet of elevation gain. And so it's like, for me, it's a way of kind of touching the void. It's like you push yourself that hard for that long, and you gain some things that are untangible. Like you can't even like put it into words. It's pretty amazing. Anyways, so I was telling them about that, and just I wanted them to see that I'm somebody that has experienced a lot of life, and so my advice is worthy of them listening to. And so I told them about like setting goals, and they were all kind of fixated. And like, I told them, I said, well, I have this car dealership, and I didn't own a Porsche, but I've driven lots of Porsches now, and lots of things like that. And
you get to enjoy the Porsche and not own it.
Exactly. That's exactly. Not have to pay for the maintenance. Yeah, that's for somebody else.
Yes.
The best of both worlds. If that business could just make some money. Yeah. My accountant, he says, are we going to start just calling this one a charity? Thanks, Gary.
Uh-oh.
Thanks, Gary. I appreciate that. But even, you look at that and you go, okay, well, you can try different ventures. And if they fail, it doesn't matter. It doesn't hurt you, right? So anyways, I was explaining this to them, and I get all done, and they're like, well, are you? I go, am I what? They go, are you a millionaire? And I go, I've achieved the goals that I set out to achieve. And they would not. And pretty soon it's like 20 of them are going, yeah, but are you a millionaire? And I go, look, I have more than exceeded the goals that I set at that time, right? And I have new goals that I'm working on. And they would not let up. Now it's like 50 of them are like going, but are you? Yes, I am a millionaire multiple times over, right? Well, so I look at that, and I'm just curious. And so I look at what my net worth is, and I go, well, how many people in the U.S. are have attained that level of net worth? And I'm putting a value to my businesses. I'm putting a value to, except for the car business, it's zero, but it's less than zero.
It might be,
it's a negative, yeah. But and
We need the write-offs.
we're working on that. Yeah, lots of write-offs. Yeah, actually, I think since I've owned businesses, I want to say there's probably 5 years where I've actually there's enough write-offs where I just don't pay taxes. Between the properties and the businesses and stuff like that, and yet I have a very good level of income. Mm-hmm. And so the government is really good at encouraging me to create jobs, create places to live, and create something nice for other people, which also creates something nice for me. So anyways, I happen to be in the top 2% of all people in the U.S.
Mhm.
as far as net worth. And I actually, when I figured that out, I was kind of disheartened. I'm like, really? That's it? And you look around and there's a lot of people in the U.S. and there's a lot of people that just they don't make anything. They won't make anything in their life. They've never saved anything. So you add all that in, and I'm sure if you took California as a whole, which our cost of living is more expensive, it's probably in the top 10, 20%, whatever. you know. And but we see so many people that are very wealthy that maybe our thought process gets skewed, and yet, like, the amount that I make from my job and my investments and things like that, like, I have never been in anything higher, as far as wage earners, more than the top 20%,
Right.
ever. And yet, so I can be in the
Yeah.
top 2% because of my investing,
Of wealth.
and
Yeah.
because I kind of call it, I say, live well within your means,
Yeah.
right? So it's more than just living, this is how much I make and this is how much I spend. It's I still live well,
Right. It's funny because when you start thinking about that, I've always said people that make lots of money, they're doctors, lawyers, whatever, and their cash flow is really good.
Spend it all.
Well, they're a higher level of broke.
Yes.
That's all it is.
That's it.
That's all it is. So you're either down here broke or you're up here broke.
Yeah. Living paycheck to paycheck. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when you're up here, it takes just something really simple and the whole house of cards falls apart.
That's true.
Whereas when you're down here, yeah, it's devastating when you have an alternator go out in the
You're
car.
close to the bottom.
You're already close to the bottom anyways, and you can, it's not as devastating.
Right.
And that's sad.
Yep.
That it's not devastating here, but
okay, when you're down here, your car, you can actually change your own alternator.
Yes.
Not only can you do it, but it can be done on that car.
Yes.
It actually has an alternator.
Yes.
You can see it, right?
And a distributor.
And I remember being there. I drove a car. We drove a Ford Maverick we were in our second house. It was like just given to my wife, right, from her grandparents, and it was ugly. It was orange, and she went to Earl Shive and had it painted for $200 or something like that, like this gray, gunmetal gray, and that's what we drove. And anytime anything broke on it, I just do it. In fact, I remember it breaking down while I was at work.
Mm-hmm.
I was commuting for a job in Marysville, and it had sprung a leak in the radiator hose or something like that on the way there. So fill it up, get to work, do work, get done with work, walk to the place because it wasn't going anywhere, and change it right there.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just what I did, and we laugh about that, and
I think we've all got great stories about the car.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I was, before I got into real estate, I worked for a funeral corporation, and I was into the cars and stuff. So one day I come home and I said, Kathy, my wife, I said, I got you a new car. And it was an old Highway Patrol pursuit car.
Oh, wow.
So when you fired that thing up, it goes, pop, 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 pop. But I mean, it had a lot of miles and everything. So she would drive that and take the kids around and do that until one day it didn't work very well. She got so upset, she sold it to the neighbor for $500.
Oh, that's funny.
And then we got a new car. But I always was working on cars. It broke down, and in those days you could. You can't wrench on cars today.
It's not easy. No, we do.
You got to have computers. And
yep. Got to have computers. It's expensive. Yep.
That's why you own a dealership.
Yep. Yeah. And that's, you lose a lot of money there. When you buy something at auction, many times they won't disclose something. And then you have to fix it, and that's at your cost. And then pretty soon you're selling the car at a loss. Cars are a losing proposition.
Yep.
They just are. And so, like in the dealership, you have to buy them, turn them, and get them back out
as quickly as you can.
Yep. Otherwise, you just
the Walmart concept. If it's too stale on the counter, you discount it and get rid of it whatever you can.
Yeah.
So, let's see here. Oh,
okay.
Here, let me look at this real quick. So, duplex strategy. I think it's good because anybody can do it. So financial behaviors. So often people just, whatever they make, they spend. And I think that you have to get in this mentality of, I have to budget it, and I'm going to stay within my budget, and I'm going to put aside money to invest. If you can do that, then the wealth will come, and it makes it fun. You can do neat things. I because of my knowledge and whatnot, I've been able to be to help out with an orphanage that a friend of mine has built in Uganda. And when you understand in like Uganda, places like that, orphans are illegal. Like they're considered stray dogs. I mean, it's terrible. And so the quality of life for, they just don't have any chance. And then to provide that and to provide it in a family setting. And so, I was instrumental in helping get it built. And actually your uncle, I'm the one that introduced him there. I said,
oh, you did?
We have to get him involved. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he just took the ball and ran with it. And
he's done some incredible things.
He has. And I'm at a point now, I'm 54, and, I still got to figure out how to sell businesses, but but I could sell my businesses and I could retire right now and I could spend the rest of my life doing, whatever it is that I want. Now, I enjoy business and I enjoy what I'm doing. But it's to retire at 55, most people can't do that.
Correct.
And most people can't do that and still keep the quality of life that they enjoy now. Now, we don't live, yes, we have a nice house. It's almost $1 million, but it's only that because of appreciation. But it suffices, and it's really nice for us. And I don't drive the latest and greatest cars. Our cars are pretty. I want to be that millionaire next door that everybody goes, wait, that guy's a millionaire, but he drives this, And so
blue jeans with holes in them or something, or
yeah,
that's right,
coveralls.
Yeah, and it's.
I learned that a long time ago. Don't judge people by the way they look.
No.
I had a client that was referred to me by a really good friend, and they said he needs to come in and buy $1 million worth of real estate. This was in the mid-'90s, and he had cash. And so he drives up on a motorcycle, gets off, and he's all scruffy and not the best looking. And he walks in, and I've learned a long time ago, don't judge. And he was a very simple person. And I sold him $1 million worth of real estate. So we bought a bunch of half-plexes and duplexes and stuff. He still owns them to this day.
Yeah.
And he said, Mike, I'm doing this because I'm buying these for the cash flow for my wife. This is her monthly, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it's her money that she can spend, her allowances. So he bought all these properties, and the cash flow and the income went to her to do whatever she wanted to do. And he dedicated $1 million to it.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
And he paid cash.
Yep. So I think that we've been very fortunate. And there's been times where I've been like, if my wife worked, and we could, but there is nobody that is better to be at home raising your children than their mother.
And that is a job.
It is. And I say been very fortunate, but there's more to it than that. We worked towards that. Mm-hmm. We made that happen. She is my partner. In fact, she's the only person that actually could call me on the carpet. I'd actually listen. Everybody else is like, yeah, whatever. She's and like intellectually, we match each other, and actually she works in my business and she handles, the paperwork for the properties. And so we are partners in every way. It's just say it's not easy. And I'm the reason it's like, I just am, and I am much more, willing to take risks than she is. She's very risk averse. She's like, you have to have $20,000 in the bank. I'm like, 20,000? You don't need $20,000 in the bank. Heck, if I got a credit card, I can pull $20,000 from it. We're fine. Don't worry about it.
Exactly.
Whatever. And and so I do push things, and she's great, and yeah, I mean, we have wonderful children, and there's a reason for
Right.
So I can't think of a better way to put that.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything else you wanted to
I don't know. I was just saying. Okay, so we talked about early influence of real estate. I think that's important. We talked about setting goals. Talked about starting early, right? And I did, and I don't know who else has, but early could be. I mean, anybody that's younger than me, that's early, right? Anybody that's older than you, that might be a little bit late, but I would still say do it.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Long-term investing philosophy. This is not get rich quick, and most people that try and get rich quick, they don't. They just end up spinning their wheels.
That's correct.
Yeah.
We talked about the 6 ways of making money in real estate, the duplex strategy. And I wish I could tell people. So I tell people, buy a condo. You can't buy a condo? Go buy a mobile home.
Yes.
And I was so like, but I can't do this. I can't do. I'm tired of hearing I can't. So I just go, you know what? I'm going to do it. So what do? I find a young kid, and didn't work out with him necessarily, by the way, but we're still, anyways, he screwed it up big time. But I said, look, we'll go buy this mobile home. We'll fix it up together. You can sell it, and away we go, right? We'll make some money. So I find this place. I buy it for 10, I put 25 into it, and we're selling for 80. It's for sale right now. So is it possible? It absolutely is. Now, the 25 that I put in, I didn't do any of the work. I hired somebody to do it all, right? It was supposed to be with him, and he was supposed to do a lot of the work. And then he just, I don't know, these kids, if they smoke pot, it destroys their brain, and they just can't think right. So then he's over there trying to do work in the middle of the flipping night. He's not sleeping because he's choked up on whatever. And I didn't know how bad it was. And then the manager says, look, if I ever see him again, we're evicting you. I'm like, whoa, man, I got some money invested in this. I'm sorry, we're parting ways. That's it. I'll pay you, for the time that you had there, but we're done. This is not going forward. And so then I had to take it over and end up, because I was spinning my wheels for a little bit, end up paying more for space rent and that kind of stuff. But I'm still going to make, I'm going to double my money in 9 months on it. And it's been kind of fun to do. I created something that's really neat, really unique, a lot of fun. And it's just a little mobile home. So for anybody that says they can't, come on, really? I mean, you could have financed, the money for that. You could have moved in with it the way that it was and done the work on your own. I won't accept that. I can't. And maybe I'm different. Maybe I'm weird, but I would.
No, you're normal.
I'm normal.
You're normal. Yeah. Because that's where our brains are.
Yeah. Well, and then the other thing is, have a voracious appetite for learning. I mean, you guys do. This is why you're doing this.
Correct.
So right? We do this.
It's like with the internet, you can just glean so much.
And one of the things that we've explored and actually moved into is we're building houses in another state, not near us. And you got to get on a plane and fly a long ways. Yes. And it's working. And so you just got to have a little bit of gut. But it's
because the numbers make sense.
Yeah.
And we have the right people in place.
Yeah.
That's the key. If you don't have the right people in place, it makes it that much more difficult. So we've been fortunate. And plus, if you have good partners, partners are not the best.
Yeah, that can be very challenging.
But when you have good partners, like we have a good working relationship, and it makes sense. And I'm pretty docile, pretty laid back, and Joel's pretty laid back, and that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Do we disagree on things? Oh, heck yeah, and that's supposed to be.
You should.
You should.
You absolutely should. But it should never become, the point where you can't work together.
Exactly. Oh no, we share our opinion.
I love it because it sharpens the sword.
It does.
Like I know if he's against it for some reason, there's a reason he's against it. It's not just because he's got to win. And so then I want to know what that is, because then I can sharpen my thought process or for it. And
but what happens is we're more for things together than the kids.
Get ourselves in trouble sometimes.
So I think last thing, so often you go to the bank and the bank says, oh, you qualify for X amount. people look for that exact amount. And then they're house poor for the next 10 years, and they can't afford to do anything. They can't afford to invest anything. They're always going, man, we shouldn't have bought this. And sometimes people give up, and I don't know, maybe I've never been one to give up. Just can't do it. And maybe some things okay to give up on, but I've watched it time and time again. So in my own family, I was, this is funny, but I was at a wedding, and I'm standing next to my brother. I'm talking to someone I care about. We'll just leave it at that. And they were saying that her husband wanted to go into a different field. He was going to make less money, but it was going to be more rewarding. And I said, well, you have a ton of equity in your house. You lived there for like 20 years. You should be able to just, live on less. And she says, well, we pulled money out of it a couple times. And apparently there must have been some look on my face, right? Because the next thing I heard was, well, everybody does it. And I looked at my other brother, and I kind of shook my head. I go, I've never done it. I don't, And he goes, I never have either, right? And then I think back, and they spend a lot of money. They go on a lot of trips. They do a lot of things. And what it is they're using their house
As an ATM.
Exactly.
Higher level of growth.
Yeah, to a higher level of growth. Yeah, and he's a professional. I mean, he makes good money, and I love him. And I don't ever want anybody to think that I think bad of him. I just think that by looking at it that way, you can do better, right? I have another person I care about a lot, and they've owned 4 houses, but they own a house for a little while, and I think they bought their first one probably 30 years ago, and they were kind of younger, and they bought it, but they always had new furniture, and they had new cars and whatnot. You're like, man, they must be doing really well. 3 years later, they sell their house, they pay off the cars, they pay off the furniture, and they move and they rent. And then they do it again, and then they do it again, and then they do it again. And here it is, 30 years later, and
new furniture, nice house, in debt.
And I have developed, and now we have nice furniture, right? But the furniture is paid for. It's not bought on credit cards. It's not, and I have a net worth that, like I said, it's up there. And they have a house that they're renting. And you're like, wait a minute, if you had simply just never moved from that, and maybe bought couches on Craigslist or something like that, or taking your mom and dad's hand-me-downs, or taking our hand-me-downs, I don't know, right? Then maybe it wouldn't have been the nicest, and it wouldn't have been as elegant, but you'd have $500,000 in equity, and you wouldn't have a house payment right now. If that's all they had done. And it makes me sad to watch people do that time and time again. And so, I would say, live well, but live well within your means.
Right.
That doesn't mean that you always have to go to Hawaii. I've been to Hawaii a lot, but I'll tell you what, I've also been to Yosemite. Yosemite's a beautiful place.
Mm-hmm. You can do a day trip there.
Yeah. I drove through like Lodi the other day, and I'm going, what the heck is this? This is a nice little town.
Mm-hmm.
This would be a fun town to spend a day or two in, And so it's, you don't need to get on a plane. You don't need to, spend thousands upon thousands of dollars just to go on a trip.
Mm-hmm.
Do something smarter. Do something that's closer to home.
We call them staycations.
Yeah, a staycation. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or buy some property, buy it with a daughter that's in Las Vegas, and you go to Las Vegas, and you go to Las Vegas whenever you want.
Yeah.
And guess what? It's a write-off.
Exactly.
Yeah. And besides that, flights to Las Vegas are cheap.
Oh yeah, they want you there.
They want you there. Yeah. Now don't go to the casino, because that's the worst thing. The only thing worse than going to a casino, I think, is buying lottery tickets. I call that poor people tax. That's how they get their money from the poor people. It's terrible.
So they tax the poor people.
Taxing the poor. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate everything. Great stories. Great stories. Thank you.
That's fun.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
You bet.